Hello, everyone. Welcome to another draft, a very special draft celebrating Disney's 100 years of magic, I guess. I don't know. Disney 100 is what they're branding it as. We have four great guests here to draft Disney movies, not just Disney movies, but Marvel movies, Star Wars movies, Pixar movies. And I have a quite fun bunch today. This is an odd circumstance where all of our panelists know each other before we get on the show, even though some are new faces to the channel. So I'm going to bring them on kind of all at once, but I'll introduce them. Well, we'll start with Zach because you all know Zach. Most of the
Oh, who is that? It's me. I'm Zach.
And what's special about our panel today, Zach?
Well, Dylan, about a year ago, I really made a mistake. And someone said to me, you know what you'd be good at? Online Survivor. And so what did I do? Submit myself to Online Survivor for weeks, months, maybe almost like half a year at a time. And the good thing about doing that, the terrible thing is that I feel like I've lived 8 lifetimes before 30. The great thing about that is that the community of online reality games orgs, especially the Survivor community, is filled and jam-packed with people who are just absolutely phenomenal people from all different walks of life, all different parts of the globe, all really doing one thing, which is like enjoying each other's company and like maybe smacking each other down. I have yelled at 2 out of the 5. No, I've yelled at 3 out of the 5 people on this panel over a silly, stupid little Survivor game. And then, Dylan, what I did was I introduced you when I was asked to play a season that I unfortunately couldn't play. You took my spot with this one, and you were hosted by one of these people, and then you played alongside of 2 of these amazing people.
Yeah,
and I'm
this
thrilled
little
that they're
org
here.
community bringing us all together, and they all happen to be Disney adults. So I figured, why not kind of crossover worlds of Disney and org world? But yeah, 5 orgers here drafting some Disney movies. Zach, why don't you introduce our lovely panelists today?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm gonna just do an order. I'm going to start with the person who I haven't known as well. He is a staple in the org community. Legend says that this player's confessionals can be up to, if not longer than 30 minutes at a time. He is an absolute ball to watch on live tribals. He is a wonderful, wonderful person and an even better Disney fanatic, I am sure. Noah Hammerman.
Yeah, I threw him a rogue vote. How's it going,
Noah? Not quite a rogue vote. We can get into that later. That was insanity. But I'm doing great right now. I mean, yeah, as Zach mentioned, I haven't gotten to know him as well as the other people on the panel, but I've seen Zach around in the community for quite a while at this point. I'd argue that you're a staple nowadays because, I mean...
Me? I'm about to hit my year anniversary. I'm about to hit my year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, you're making me feel ancient. I'm on 4.5 years at this point.
Well, we're happy to have you, Noah, here drafting some Disney movies this time. Not necessarily Survivor related, but always a blast talking with you, Noah, because you always come in with those very, very strong opinions. So I'm excited to see how they translate today in the draft atmosphere, because it can get competitive in here. Zach, who's next?
We call her El Cockroach. We've tried many times to evict her. When I met this player, first of all, FIWB, I don't know if I can say what it actually means. I'll let her decide if she's going to do it. I met this orger playing a second chance season where we fully lied to each other on a call for like 45 minutes, and then later that night tried to vote each other out. Then we screamed at each other. Then I tried to buy her a Celsius because I was really sad about it. And she is just one of the most genuine individuals. She cannot be killed. I've never seen someone play more idols than her. The queen herself, Julia Rowe.
Woo! So, Julia, welcome to the draft.
Hello. It's great to be here. I'm very excited. I consider myself a Disney young adult. Don't age me. But I'm ready to throw down
I think I'm the oldest person here.
Go down, throw down, and hopefully win. Can we win this?
Yeah, there's a poll at the end, so there will be a victor at the end of this.
As long as I beat
You have to vote for someone.
as long as I beat our last panelist, I would have accomplished everything I needed to do.
That's correct.
Love that.
Very excited to be on the
Correct.
channel.
There you go.
I'm
Well,
here
thank
for
you.
that.
We're honored to have you guys on. Zach, who's our final panelist? We've seen him on the channel once before, but
Speaking of our last panelist, you might say I'm seeing double when Dylan and Zach are on the screen, and today maybe it'll be triple. Who knows? I met this person the same time I met Julia, but we did not go up against each other. He introduced me as my fiance calls you the dark version of me. He's got 4 names, each of which I pronounce every time I meet him. I got him voted out at 7 with no original votes cast against him. It's my greatest accomplishment. I love him. He looks just like us, Dylan. His name is Austin Ronald Scott Wilson.
I should have made that my name before I got in here. Jeez.
it's okay. You can still edit it if you would like, but yeah, it might not fit. It might not
Boo
fit
me.
How's
Yeah,
it
no,
going?
I was
Ooh.
having this is actually my 3rd time on the podcast.
Is it
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
Yes,
so
it is. He came
Survivor
on
Trap,
one night
also,
randomly.
Big Brother Pressure
You
Cooker.
came on the Pressure Cooker podcast. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah, Pressure Cooker, and then you helped draft Survivor.
Yeah, I was having some deja
crushed us.
vu until Noah and Julia got here. When you guys
Damn.
were retelling
in the
Zach
background, yeah.
foraying into orgs. I was like, I've heard this exact story
Yep. Yeah,
about
we gotta
6
promote
months
it.
ago.
If you have what it takes, get off the couch or stay on the couch. But play
Get on the
Survivor.
couch
Play-
and
play
Get
Orcs.
on the couch and
throw
watch
some
Disney
ping pong
movies.
balls and some cups.
Hell yeah,
and
hell
be
yeah.
fast.
Yeah, it was funny for Christmas. My mom got me a fire making kit and a set of ping pong balls and cups because she was like, whether you play Real Survivor or Orc Survivor, you better be prepared.
Oh, it's
It
so
does,
good.
I will say it does feel good to be the one that everyone wants to beat.
Yes, I want to beat Zach today, Austin. So I will side with
that's
you.
always
Then
the
you.
true
You're the
goal.
next in the pecking order, I'd say. Anyway,
Good luck.
welcome to the draft, people. It's a Disney draft, meaning we have to draft 5 different movies from different Disney realms. I'm just gonna bring up the rules real quick. We are gonna have a snake draft, so it'll be whoever's the last pick of the first round will be the first pick of the second round. So it'll kind of snake like a regular fantasy football draft or sports draft. I have a wheel ready to determine the order of the draft, which we'll get to in a sec. What we have to draft 1 Disney animated film, 1 Disney live action film, 1 Pixar film, and then 1 MCU film or series, 1 Star Wars film or series. If anyone disagrees with the eligibility of a pick, you can veto, but you need at least 3 out of the other 4 people to veto as well in order to, negate it. So also just don't mention too much films before they're drafted, just to keep some suspense. I'm going to pull this up one last time with little borders. Oops, there they are. All right, so I got the wheel. It's time to determine the order. Here we go. This is always the most nerve-wracking part.
Oh my God! This never happened.
Zach, would you like to go? Where would you like to go in the draft, Zach?
I wasn't prepared to answer this because this never happens. Let me look at this. What do I want? What do I want most? Okay. Yeah, okay. I got it. I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna
First
go first.
overall pick.
I have a feeling I want one thing specific.
Okay. Oh man, Austin, where would you like to go in the draft? Suspense.
I'll go 5th.
5th. Okay, so he's gonna get the back-to-back pick. All right, interesting. Next up, it's looking like it's gonna be Julia. Would you like to go 2nd, 3rd, or 4th?
I will go 3rd.
3rd, right smack dab in the middle. So it's between me and Noah for the last spot. Between 2nd and 4th. Let's see. Ooh, it's gonna be me. I'll stick where I'm at. Okay, I'll stay 2nd, which means Noah's gonna be 4th. So our draft order, as established by the wheel and choices, is Zach, then Dylan, then Julia, then Noah, then Austin. All right, Zach, you are on the clock. Your first pick. There's no clock. You can take as much time as you want. But what is going to be your first pick, Zach?
All right, listen. I've been trying to figure. There are a lot of really good of everything. I mean, there's no question. I think that everyone is divided on their Star Wars opinion, but I think Pixar is like a regularly debate. Like it's not really a debate. Like there are like the best Pixar movies, and I can't let it slide. So I'm taking in the first overall pick. I think it's fitting. Toy Story 3.
No,
It needs to be taken.
It.
It needs to leave the board.
Have it.
I think this was the right move. I don't know what I'm gonna lose as a result, but I am okay with it.
Wasn't even in my top 5.
wow.
Good. You won't be upset.
It wasn't in yours.
Also wasn't.
Julia? Wow.
Nope.
Okay. No,
I told you, I'm pandering to the people. I'm pandering to the people.
I love Toy Story 3. Still not my top 5.
It was number 3 for me in my Pixar category.
We get to and for the fun draft day people. I know I'm not Dylan, but we're like pretty close. I don't know. I think you're wearing a red shirt. I'm wearing a green shirt. I'm colorblind. We're the opposite of another right now. So in draft day, what happens is we'll make our pick, we'll defend it, and then everybody gets sort of an opportunity to talk and provide their opinions. Let me tell you why I picked Toy Story 3. Okay. Let me take you back to what is this? 2010? 2010? Yep. I remember, Dylan. I don't know if we saw it together. I think we might have.
Maybe.
I remember sitting in the Westfield Rialto Theater.
All right.
And I remember walking in being like, I don't even like Toy Story. That's right. I said it. I don't like the original Toy Story. I don't even really like Toy Story 2. And I was like, I'm kind of whatever. I think this will be fine. And I left sobbing. And that was unexpected. No, I think what's Toy Story 3 is like the quintessential Pixar film. It's got everything that Pixar does really extremely well. It's got very grounded emotional characters. It's got some of the best voice acting performances. I mean, you've got Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, of course, but you'll get them in literally any of your Toy Story movies. I think it has probably the best Toy Story villain. Lotso Bear is one of the best Pixar villains because it's so unassuming. It's like that perfect subjugation of or whatever the thing, subverting of expectation and juxtaposition. I think it's iconic. It comes at a very specific time for my generation, our multiple people in here's generation.
So we're all around the same, right? I don't know.
Well, but like we're like being in high school, I was like that perfect age of like, I don't really play with my toys anymore. What happens to my toys? And now I'm sad and feel bad about it. I think again, is it my favorite Pixar movie? No. But do I think it speaks for the voices of a generation? Yes.
I almost feel like you did that to spite me, because everyone who knows me very, very well knows this is my favorite animated movie ever. So I'm like,
I knew you'd take it if I waited.
I think you knew I was going to take it, so it's fine. I have other Pixar movies I really love, though, so I'm not too disappointed. But yeah, you said it all best. I mean, the incinerator scene, holy crap!
Oh,
like
damn!
Way to
talk about tugging on the heartstrings. That scene is just. I would go as far as to say, arguably the most emotional scene in a Pixar movie.
And there's a lot of them, yeah. But I would agree, yeah. Any other thoughts on Toy Story 3? Bold pick, first pick. Austin, you said it wasn't there. Julia, you said it wasn't there for you.
I think it's a great movie. I think every Pixar movie is a great movie. I do. They're all wonderful. They're all fantastic. I just don't have as big of a personal emotional connection to this one. Like it moves me. I cry at pretty much any movie I watch. It definitely moves me, but Zach's feelings and emotions come from like a personal experience he had. Remembers watching it vividly. I was like 10 when this came out. I don't have the exact emotional connection he does.
Julia, you were definitely younger than 10.
He said 2010. I was like 10 or 11, right?
No, because I was born in 2001.
How old are you right now, Julia Rowe?
Are we about to reveal?
Like 8. I was like 9. Jesus Christ.
I was gonna say, I think you are actually.
Yeah, I turned
you
9
are-
the year it came out. I was about to say, Julie and I cannot relate to Zach being in high school when that came
I was a
out.
little baby when it came
Yeah,
out.
you're the Bonnie. You're the Bonnie of that whole thing. You are Bonnie.
And you're
That's
old man Andy,
very
Zach.
different. All right, shut your dang mouth.
Can't deny it's a good movie. Just shocked it went first overall of
Yeah.
everything in the
Yeah,
Disney multiverse.
I am in the boat of I don't agree with Zach in that all of the other categories have really good things to pick from. Like I think the pool is limited in worlds that aren't Pixar, and I agree with Julia that almost every Pixar film is a fantastic film, and I'm happy with many Pixar films. I am not necessarily happy with any Marvel film or any Star Wars, or any live action. Like those are kind of, I'm not focused on Pixar yet. So that's kind of, I'm just more shocked that we went Pixar first overall.
Yeah. Hey, if it was a strategic pick to prevent me from picking it, maybe I give you kudos because I was teetering around.
It felt targeted.
Yep.
Oh, it felt strategic. Great pick overall,
It was
but
targeted.
100% strategy was involved.
I don't know what
when you-
anyone's talking about.
When you follow it with, it's not my favorite Pixar film, but that's,
I told you I'm pandering to the people. I think
exactly.
the people
Yeah,
agree.
it's good.
Are
All
those
right.
people Dylan? Like,
You got my vote.
He does have to pick it. I'm kidding, but
That's fine.
no, I think it. Like
No,
I said,
it was a great pick.
Pixar. I think it's the Pixar movie of a generation, and I think a lot of that generation is in the Dyl Pickle Movie Network.
All right. Any other thoughts on Toy Story 3?
I mean, I am just going to say I think Austin has really horrible taste for not having Toy Story 3.
Facts.
I would say for me, Toy Story 3 is easily the best movie of the Toy Story series.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement.
I don't agree with that statement.
And I
Ooh.
think Julia has really terrible taste. Come fight me. I don't care.
This is what I expected when I brought y'all on. The spiciness. I love it.
For me, Toy Story 3, it was the perfect stopping point for Toy Story. I don't necessarily think that Toy Story 4 needed to be made. While I liked Toy Story 4, it felt kind of unnecessary. And a big part of that was because Toy Story 3 was just such a perfect cap for the series.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. Cool. All right. So now I'm going along your thinking, Austin. I don't think I'm going to pick an animated or a Pixar because I think that field is so deep. I think the most controversial category on the board in terms of voters is Star Wars, because if you pick one that like people have all this angry discourse about, like it could lose you a whole whatever. So I'm gonna go with something that I feel like is more universally liked around the Star Wars realm. That
Go ahead and take it.
Everyone can agree. This might be not what you're expecting, Zach. It is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I think I don't want to say it's a safe choice because it's my favorite one, but I think it's one that like you watch it, you feel good. It's a great capper like Toy Story 3 is. I'm gonna go Return of the Jedi, number 6. I think because it appeals. You got the great Jabba's Palace stuff in the beginning. You got the great Ewok stuff for the kids, and you got the dark emotional stuff with him and his father at the end. You don't get the big plot twist of him being the father, but you get the Leia plot twist of being the sister. You get the great final battle where Darth Vader has that redemption. You get the Emperor out of the picture. It ends with that great kind of bonfire scene with the Ewoks dancing around. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, and I think it's like a good one to just kind of like relate to all the masses where like there's so many polarizing ones. I feel like this is a good like universal, like I feel like everyone who likes Star Wars at least likes this one. Like I don't think anyone's like, oh, Return of the Jedi sucks, where like I think a lot of the newer ones sometimes have a little bit more polarization. So I'm gonna Return of the Jedi with my first pick. So any thoughts, Zach? You look like you have something to say.
Arguably the most forgettable of the original trilogy.
Okay.
Arguably the most forgettable.
Arguably. It's a great trilogy, so arguably
the
I'll agree.
shit-eating grin that Zach got on his face when you picked that movie was couldn't be missed.
I listen. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Star Wars, and I'll say it's like pizza. Even bad pizza is still pizza. Will I be happy about it? Maybe not, but I'll still have pizza, and it's better than salad. You know what I mean?
The faces Julia and Austin just made at the same time.
I've had pizza from Florida I promise you,
We've talked about
all
this.
pizza isn't pizza.
We've talked about this.
Is Phantom Menace pizza? No, it's not.
Hey. That's my number one pick. No, it's not. I don't think it's a single person's number one pick. But I
Phantom
think
Menace is the Lunchables, like the
Julia
Well,
Rowe, the person who got on this podcast saying, "I've never seen a Star Wars film," is
that was Fred. Fred said to her, "Whatever you do,
never.
I don't care what happens. You will not pick the Phantom Menace."
Half of Phantom Menace. And I know all of Weird Al's The Saga Begins, so I'm basically
Listen again. All three of the original trilogy are wonderful. I mean, they're the capstone of a generation. I think that's going to be a lot of what we see from a lot of these picks tonight. Is that generations are defined by a lot of these choices because Disney is such a generation-defining entity because it goes through these different phases. But for me, Return of the Jedi just does not pack the punch I want it to of the original series. I think the original series has some absolutely golden moments. I think obviously you have the fallout of the other movies in Return of the Jedi, but I just don't think it's the one I always think about the least, if that makes sense.
Fair. You said it was generational, Zach. You just weren't alive in '83 like me.
Neither were you. Oddly enough, neither were you.
I'm kidding. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, any of the original trilogy would have been like a solid pick for me, but I just picked my favorite of the originals. But I just knew picking a prequel or a sequel is just it's bold, but it's risky. That's all I'm saying. And I haven't seen all of the series yet. So, any thoughts on Return of the Jedi? Anyone?
I'm actually with Julia on this one in that I am not necessarily the biggest Star Wars fan. Return of the Jedi, I think, is actually the only Star Wars movie I've watched.
There you go.
So the Star Wars
and he wasn't a fan after he watched it. So
I did. Okay, I will say I did like Return of the Jedi. I thought it was a good movie. It's just I'm not really big into the whole Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Personally,
it's
just it's a lot for me to deal with. And when my brain is always focused on other Disney-related things and Survivor, adding Star Wars into it is way too much. And there's already way too much Disney and Survivor that gets thrown into my brain that I have to keep up with.
I think it's a very safe choice. I'm about to probably pick one of the safest choices of any movie ever. I can respect it. I respect
Thank you. Austin, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good pick. It's also not on my list of 5 things that I was going to pick from Star Wars. But I do think I do think theoretically, I mean, assuming where these next 2 picks go, I'm also probably going Star Wars when it gets to my turn. So I do think Star Wars is kind of the one to grab early on. And if that is the one that you felt passionate about, good for Dylan.
There you go. Thank you. See, I appreciate the support. All right, Julia, you're up. What would you like?
I'm going to defend Zach here and a similar animated choice. I came into this draft knowing that when you're talking iconic Disney movies, live action, animated, Star Wars, Marvel, there's just some that rise to the top. And for me, I knew if this was here when I had my first pick, this was the movie I was picking. I think when it comes to music, it comes to voice acting, visuals, everything about it is stunning and flawless. And I would be remiss if I let The Lion King.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Oh! Yeah, man. Good pick. Good pick, Julia.
I'm literally wearing the shirt.
I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go any more rounds. I couldn't risk it falling. I think it is a perfect movie. I don't think that anyone can debate that. It's amazing. Everything about it is amazing, and I'm very happy that I secured it as my first pick.
I love that. I would have picked. It's my number one animated as well. It's just I knew the field was deeper, but I respect that. I'm jealous. Zach, you got my favorite Pixar. Julia got my favorite animated. So
like Zach, it's not my favorite Disney movie, but it's damn good.
It's so damn good.
It's
right.
It is in my top 5. It's not in my top 5 personal favorites, but it is on my whiteboard here. So
After you
I,
messaged me last week, Austin, saying you're gonna hate where I have Lion King ranked.
I mean,
on the
Lion
Disney
King's
World.
number 14 overall for me. So
Okay.
I
Wait a minute.
go ahead, Noah.
When you say overall, does that mean like out of animated Pixar, live action,
No.
Marvel, Star Wars?
No,
Disney.
no.
Austin and I were comparing our like big Disney
The
rankings of like
62
62
Disney
animated,
theatrical
and
animated
I had it
releases.
at number 1, and he had Lion King at like 14. We were just chatting on the side.
Austin,
about it.
mine would also probably sit around like a 10, 15 to me, somewhere in that little range.
I think the Lion
Noah
King.
looks disgusted.
It's not,
It's
it
top
is not.
10. There's no doubt about it. It's at least top 10.
I was gonna say, I think I agree with Noah. Again, for me, it's not my top animated movie of all time, but I think like when you think about Disney, like that's it, man. Sorry, my cat just jumped on our other chair.
Well, cats love Lion King.
When you think, I mean, she's full on Mufasa-ing right now. Look at her. But for real, when you think about Disney, like the Lion King, I think is probably your, if not like the first thing that pops into your head. I mean, like, look at your characters. I mean, first of all, James Earl Jones as Mufasa is probably one of, and there's something to be said about the fact that James Earl Jones can appear more than once in this draft. And I mean, like you having him is sort of like a stamp in the 90s and in that early generation of like a very like high quality, highly respected film. But like Nathan Lane, like when's the last time Nathan Lane voice acted in anything? There's something special about the Lion King, and like I have memories. I think I have memories associated with a lot of things on these lists, but like the like warm fuzzy memories come from like things like the Lion King.
It's only the third pick, and something that we've already touched on for the last two is how Disney is generational. How different people of different ages are going to have connections to movies because of what it meant to them growing up. And Lion King is so special just in the way that I don't care how old you are, and it doesn't matter if you're 10 years old right now or you're in your 40s, whatever, you love the Lion King. You know the Lion King, you know the story, you know the characters, you know what happens. And it's so special in the way that it's one of, I think, the few Disney movies that probably connects everyone together, regardless of age.
Yeah.
I
Noah,
mean,
you love this one, right?
Yeah, this was one of my top picks. I mean, when I was going through my list of like what picks I want, I didn't exactly stick to a top 5. I listed all of the movies that I potentially wanted to draft. That way I had plenty of options.
Yeah.
But Lion King was a very serious contender for me in the animated field. I mean, you want to talk about iconic Disney characters, Simba, Mufasa, Rafiki, Timon, Pumbaa, Scar, the list goes on. Speaking of Scar, I think Scar is one of the best Disney villains ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is just so scary and menacing that it's chilling. I mean, emotional moments. I mean, Mufasa's death is one of the saddest scenes in a movie, period, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like that one, I don't get choked up at movies very often, but Mufasa's death, at the very least, it gets me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not crying, but I'm crying on the inside with it.
Mhm.
Like it's
Amen. Maybe I'm not crying, but definitely on the inside. Like you feel it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just overall, it's such a beautiful movie. And as Julia mentioned, it connects all of the generations. And there's a reason for that. It does it through the circle of life.
There you go. Ah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's a
Beautiful.
great. I agree with everything that's been said about it. Like I said, it's the first thing on my whiteboard that's been picked. I agree with everything Noah said. I'll just be the one person to maybe throw a stone at the Lion King since it's been a love fest. Maybe not the most original. I mean, it's Hamlet.
Fair enough.
It's Hamlet.
Well, the other ones are fairy tales, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
fairy tales.
But, and I'm not saying that this is a critique only of The Lion King, but I think there are Disney movies out there is what I just said, but there are Disney movies out there that aren't necessarily, out there on Zach's shirt, that are a little bit more original. Even if they are like based in the fairy tales, they're still slightly more original than The Lion King, which is more or less Hamlet with lions.
That's fair.
Here's what I'll say to rebuttal, only because, and this is, Austin, obviously you'll appreciate this, and I know like Dylan, but I know also Julia and Noah, you will too. I think that there's something awesome about that, because like as a person who teaches theater, trying to understand Shakespeare is a really difficult task. I mean, that's just like a general thing, at the very least. When you find out that The Lion King is just Hamlet, for a young mind, that is eye-opening. Yeah. And suddenly a very difficult realm becomes understandable. And I think that is something that like, that's something that The Lion King has going for it, is that like, the fairy tales are very, are obviously stories, and we haven't mentioned any, so I'm not going to mention any yet. But when you find out that the Lion King is derived from like what is essentially considered like higher level literature, you're like, oh, it's for everybody, which is not something that is always commonly thought.
There's a reason 10 Things I Hate About You is one of the most celebrated rom-coms. They're out there.
And I'll also say, just because we have a killer soundtrack.
Oh my
God! Touched on with The Lion King, and I think that's one of Lion King's strongest suits, is the soundtrack. There's not
absolutely.
I can't off the top of my head think of a song that misses in that movie.
I mean, straight up, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it here. When you think of like some of the different genres of characters, like the different character archetypes, and then the songs associated with them, the songs in The Lion King, when you categorize them that way, are some of the best in their category. I mean, Be Prepared, one of the best Disney villain songs of all time. Hakuna Matata, one of the best, if not the best, sidekick songs of all time. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? One of the best love songs in a Disney film.
Yeah.
Like, the soundtrack is so amazing.
Noah, stop making Julia's draft look so good.
I'm sorry, I love The Lion King. Okay,
who could forget Hakuna Matata?
Hakuna Matata.
Who could forget Hakuna Matata?
Okay. All right, Zach. All right, Noah, you are next up, though, so you will get to fill in your own draft board here. You can't pick Lion King.
So, for my list, Star Wars is going to be the category that I pick from for this one, mostly because of the fact that with Star Wars, I don't know much about it, and I want to grab one that, at the very least, I know is considered to be a good one, as well as one that I feel like most people would have a lot of respect for. Before I was starting to really think about, oh, shoot, like, what am I going to pick? A part of me was going to pick a certain something from the animated film that I know would make Zach really upset. And I would just make a pick to spite him because of his first round pick. But I'm not that petty. And so I'm...
So swing back in round 2.
Maybe, we'll see.
You do get another pick before him, so...
We'll see what happens.
Say that.
But for my pick, I'm going to go with the Star Wars film that started it all, A New Hope. I think, as someone that doesn't know a whole lot about Star Wars, as someone that isn't really big into that whole canonical universe, as someone that hasn't spent the time to watch every single Star Wars movie, at the very least, I have a ton of respect for A New Hope, because that is what started the entire empire. Yep. It is what started the Star Wars universe. And it has spawned so many fans throughout multiple generations. And at this point, it has become a household name, an incredibly important entity within the world of cinema. that you have to pay your respect for the movie that started it all, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, and Pixar all have like that one movie that it's like, because of this, we get this. So I definitely get giving it its props. I love A New Hope. It's great. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to criticize. It's a great pick. Anyone else New Hope on their list? Zach?
So good, they made it twice.
Okay, all right. Hot take.
It's on my whiteboard.
It was also on my whiteboard.
There you go. So
My-
Was I going to pick it? I have no idea.
The
but
white-
it was on my whiteboard.
It's on
Right.
the whiteboard.
Whiteboard in your mind. Love it. All right, Austin, wrap around.
Oh,
You get
man.
2.
Okay. I'm going to fully contradict everything I said during Zach's turn because I just didn't want anyone else to pick another Pixar film before I got a chance.
Yeah.
I am on the second pick. I am going to go Star Wars, but to start with this pick 5, because I feel like this movie deserves to be a first round pick. I have 2
Don't do
Pixar films.
She said, "Don't do
Go
it."
back and forth on which one is my favorite Pixar film, and it totally can depend on the day, what mood I'm in. But more times than not, I lean with the one that I'm going to pick. I think it's a beautiful story. I think the characters are extremely well developed. And I think it has one of, if not the most beautiful cinematic scene in any animated film ever. And I will be taking WALL-E with my
Oh,
pick.
I should have known.
Good
I-
call, man.
I think the Define dancing scene is one of the most beautifully animated scenes in any animated film, period. I think despite the fact that Wally and Eve can say a whole one word each, or all of the robots can only say their names, I think they are incredibly animated. The feeling, the emotion is there in the movie. I think it's a really eye-opening, punch-in-the-face commentary on the world and the state of the world that people need to wake up to. Overall, I just think WALL-E deserves to be a first-round pick, and I'm not going to let it go to round 2, and I'm definitely not going to risk not getting it.
love it.
I mean, for me, it wasn't on my list for Pixar, but I do think it's a really good movie. And as Austin said, it's a really great commentary on the state of the world. I mean, I remember a couple semesters ago, I was taking a sociology class in race and ethnicity, and my professor used WALL-E as an example to show a media depiction of what is going on in the world, specifically how we systematically class people and how those systematic classes are the big cause for the cycles of oppression that we see with minorities in race, with minorities in sexuality, the LGBTQ community, minorities in religion. It provides that great image of what is actually happening in a way that is able to relate to everybody and is able to make it a lot easier to digest and swallow, but also make you realize, like, oh, that's what this is saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great pick. It wasn't on my board either, but only because there's so many great Pixar movies that I only like narrowed it down to a few that I could like actually take. And yeah, it's all the Pixars are so good, but it's amazing. I mean, I love the 2 characters themselves too so much, and their little romance. It's perfect.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be this person. I always have to, be different. But I hate WALL-E. I'm doing a Pixar rewatch right now. I'm only gotten through 9 Pixar movies because we're kind of hopping around. But WALL-E is at my bottom. Is my last pick so far. I'm not a fan of it. Might be because of my crippling climate anxiety. That definitely doesn't help. But overall, I've never really liked WALL-E. I remember watching it when I was younger and obviously like understanding what was happening, but I've just really never gained that like real emotional connection to it that I have with almost every other Disney Pixar movie I've seen. I don't know what it is. I can admit that like visually it is a great movie. I definitely know why it is as popular as it is. Not for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is. I'm in a similar camp to Julia, but not like the camp of Julia, where I don't hate Wall-E, but it is not a personal favorite of mine. It's not like a movie that I would go and watch, and like if I had a choice to pick between any Pixar, it's not the one that I'm picking. But I do think that Wall-E probably makes me cry the most out of any Pixar movie, because it's just like in a dumb actor way. It's really beautiful how you can feel things without words, and I think Wall-E is the quintessential like you can feel things without words or as few words as possible. I think like the put on your Sunday clothes sequence gives me like little warms and fuzzies inside. But it has also been like I haven't had the itch to go and rewatch it in like 10 years. Like I saw it once and that was enough. And I think for me, the measure of a really phenomenal Pixar is one that makes me want to watch it like 1,000,001 times. A great Pixar, Wall-E definitely is, and that's on a personal level, like not like a an end all be all level.
I will say, as a substitute teacher, when I do have the ability to put on a movie for a class, it is Wall-E every time.
Good call.
And it's also because I think at like kind of what Noah was saying about how his professor used it, like it's a movie that you can justify showing in any subject almost. Like you can put that on in a history class, you can put that on in a science class, and it fits the general theme of like what that class should feel like.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so Wall-E off the board. Austin, you get to continue now. We're doing a wraparound, so you get the first pick in this round. What are you gonna go with?
I'm going Star Wars.
I was gonna say you said you were picking Star Wars.
So no, I still just not made up my mind. I really thought by the time it got to me, 2 of my top 3 would be gone, and I would just pick my number 3. But 2 of them are still here, and I'm debating between being basic or being deep cut, and that's kind of.
I hate you, Austin. I hate you because we think the same. I hate you so much.
And I think I'm gonna take the risk and go deep cut and leave the obvious choice out there for whoever decides to go Star Wars next.
I don't know what the obvious choice is.
Give me the Clone Wars series.
All right, Star Wars: The Clone Wars off the table.
Oh, I've made a mistake.
What was this?
I didn't put it on my list, and now I regret it.
You're the biggest Ahsoka Tano fanboy I know.
Shout out to Nicholas Whitney, who is another fellow Orger. I very much was only I only watched any of the Star Wars movies when Disney Plus came out. This is my little history of Star Wars. Is when Disney Plus came out, I watched all of them. I watched the sequels first. I watched the sequels as they came out in theater. Then when Disney Plus happened, I watched 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. And then as shows have come out, like Mandalorian and stuff like that, I watched those. But I never really gave Clone Wars a chance. I was like, animated Star Wars, nah. But our dear friend Nick Whitney is a Star Wars fanatic, and eventually he comes visit us like once a month in Maryland here. And he got to the point where he's like, we're watching Clone Wars. And it's phenomenal. Like, I can't deny the fact that it is a fantastic series. It provides so much context that the movies are great on their own, especially that original trilogy. but Clone Wars just gives you so much more to love. And I think that's kind of the beauty of Clone Wars is there's just so much of it to love. And Zach is so mad right now, which means I know I made a good pick.
I don't even think he's mad at you for picking it ahead of him. I think he's mad that he forgot about it. I've never seen the Clone Wars, so I can't comment, but I need to.
I will.
I think
also
that
say
made Zach
do
even
think
madder.
my other deal in picking this is that I'm hoping it's similar to the reaction Zach is getting, where when people see the draft and they see Clone Wars in my lineup, they're like, "Oh, damn, that's a pick."
Yeah.
See, I'm just hoping the Lion King just carries me through.
Yeah. God damn. I'm so mad at myself. No, I mean yeah. I mean the Clone Wars series. Dylan, I can't believe you've never watched it because it is probably I don't want to make Austin's draft look good, but I dare say it's probably the best piece of Star Wars media there is. It is beautifully voice acted. It is beautifully animated. It introduces probably one of the best Star Wars characters there is, which is wild because it's almost a full 30 or 40 years post the original creation of Star Wars, and they have no mention in the original trilogy, and now it's one of those things where Star Wars fans have openly been like, it's such a shame that they were created so late because they fit so perfectly in the initial trilogy that it would have been amazing to see what happens. Damn, I'm crushed.
It's okay.
Good pick, Austin.
You still have a.
Yeah, there's a lot. I know.
I now go into hibernation for a while.
Well, I assume, Noah, you haven't seen this one either, right?
No.
No. All right. So let's move on then to your pick, your second pick, Noah. What are you going to take?
Okay, real quick, before I go on to my next pick, Austin, what shirt is that you're wearing?
My shirt?
Yeah.
It's Pixar food trucks.
And Julia, what are you wearing right now?
A shirt.
How dare you? You're the only one within the panel that's not wearing a Disney-related shirt. You should be ashamed of yourself.
She said, hold on.
Hey.
I'll be back.
Hey.
I thought that was gonna segue. I thought that was.
I thought it was
segueing
segueing into his pick.
Yeah,
That's what I
It was
thought.
just a dunk.
No, it was an observation that
Just
I
a
made.
dunk on Julia Rowe.
I'm
I
like,
thought he was gonna end by going.
Julia's
Zach
wearing
and picking
green.
the movie on
I'm
Zach's shirt.
taking my favorite green
There it
Pixar
is.
movie, The Good Dinosaur.
There you go. Oh, you.
okay, I
Is that the
love
Good
that.
Dinosaur?
I
Oh,
love
that's
it.
not the Good Dinosaur. That's Rex. Okay.
No, that's right.
I am nervous.
Rex.
Rex.
That's me at Tribal Council.
All right, Noah. What are you gonna pick?
So it's funny that y'all mentioned that me asking Austin about his shirt would be a segue because it actually is a segue. I'm going to be picking something from Pixar. And my thinking is with live action, I feel like the pool is vast yet small all at the same time for me. And I feel okay about one of my top 5 picks making it to me in the later rounds. With the animated library, there's so many different films that I'm okay with choosing from that I don't need to pick something from there right now. And then for Marvel, again, I have so many films listed that I'm guaranteed to get one that I have written down. Whereas with Pixar, it's a very top-heavy, bottom-heavy selection. You have the greats, the legendary movies, the iconic movies, and then you have the Pixar films that aren't as good or that just don't stand up to the caliber of films within the Pixar group. So I want to make sure I get one of the Pixar movies that I really enjoy in this round. And we're going to go ahead and feel a lot of emotions with my pick because I'm picking Inside Out.
Nice.
I wanted. That's the one I wanted.
Hey yo.
That probably would have been number 6 for me. It's not on my whiteboard, but it's probably the next one I would have written.
That was my number one without a doubt.
Nice.
I mean, Inside Out is probably my favorite Pixar movie. The characters are just really well written and well developed. They each have their own story arc. And it's really impressive because you see each of the emotions going through their own individual journey as if they were sentient human beings. And I love that personification of the human emotions. And then also you see the emotions feeling their own emotions. So in a way it's like emotionception, because it's like you're inside the main character, you're inside Riley's brain and you're seeing her emotions, but then you're also seeing how each emotion deals with their own individual emotions. And it's just I feel like it's a really creative concept, and it was executed beautifully. I mean, it's not just a movie about emotions, it's a movie that makes you feel emotional. I mean, the scene with Bing Bong and Joy forcing herself to leave him to die, basically, is so sad because it hits to every person in their, child at heart portion in them, because of the fact we all had imaginary friends growing up by that. And we've all had to let them go at some point or another. And it's really hard for us to do so because we become so attached.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great pick. I didn't have it in my 5 only because of what you said. It's like almost too much for me to watch. Like I never go back to it because it's a lot. Same as Wally, honestly. Like there are movies that like I watch when I go through like the Pixar movies, like binge them, but like I never throw it on because it's like a real commitment, emotional commitment for me. Whereas some of the other ones, it's like I could sit back, laugh a little. This one, it's like, ooh, it's just so heavy for me, but I love it. It's great, and I'm excited for the sequel for sure. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Inside Out?
Like I said, this is what I was gonna pick. I love it so much. It's so great. I cry. This is probably the movie in all of the Disney, Pixar, whatever cinematic universes that makes me feel the most. And it's just something I find myself continuously coming back to. So
Yeah.
good pick from Noah. Great pick from
Good
Noah.
job, Noah. Zach, any thoughts?
Yeah, probably hit me the hardest when I first watched it. Like I like Toy Story 3 for me is the same way, but Inside Out is Toy Story 3 is the understanding of like, oh, I'm becoming an adult. Inside Out was like oh, I'm an adult. And like emotions are I have at least a handle on my emotions now. It's not just like, man, why am I randomly crying? Still happens. But I think just like, again, killer cast, beautifully animated. I mean, it's Pixar. It's no secret that it's going to be beautifully animated. But I think like there's a reason that a sequel is so anticipated, because people want things from it. People want to experience kind of like the euphoria of like seeing a way to kind of connect with something. And I think that Inside Out does do it best.
Cool.
Yeah. Echo pretty much everything everyone said. I think I'll lean more into kind of the stuff Dylan was saying as to why it's like not in my list, and it's not one I necessarily go back to and watch very often. And I don't know if that's like it's too heavy emotionally for me, or if it's just like if I'm looking at the Pixar movies, it's just not the one I'm picking to go for. I do think I need to revisit it, because I think one of my criticisms for it, just for me personally, is I don't remember a ton of it. Like I remember some of like the big moments. Like I remember the Bing Bong thing, because that's obviously like a big moment. And I remember like some of like little things, like for whatever reason, broccoli on pizza stands out to me as like another moment. But like
I was going to bring that up.
Outside of like some of just like the more like jokes that are made about it kind of on TikTok, of like the thing where like they go into the dad's brain. I think I think those are the three things that I remember from that movie, are looking inside of Riley's dad's brain, I know hockey's involved. There's broccoli on pizza and Bing Bong dies. Like that's all I can remember about the movie.
Plot synopsis.
So that's probably why it's not on my list. But like I said, if I were to write one more, if this was a draft of 6 people and I needed a 6th movie prepared, Inside Out probably does get that spot.
Nice. All right.
And again, just one last thing. Again, we've talked generationally. Like for me and Noah specifically, like at the time this was coming out, we were right around, like not exactly Riley's age, but like experiencing everything that's going on like in her head in the movies. So I feel like especially, I don't want to speak for Noah, but I know like I connected with it in that way too, just because
Yeah, for sure.
something geared like towards me when those coming out.
Yeah, same here. Like, I mean, Julia, you hit the nail on the head with it for me. It's probably the Pixar movie I connect to the most. And that's a big part of the reason why I love it so much. Also, we were talking about pizza and how not all pizza is pizza. The broccoli pizza from Inside Out is not pizza. I don't care what anybody says. You do not put broccoli on pizza. I work at a pizza shop, and we don't have broccoli for a reason.
There you go. You heard it here first.
I don't
All right, Julia, you're up.
Okay. I'm also going to do what most people have done thus far. Pick something Star Wars. With my handy dandy list pulled up from my Star Wars guru. And I will admit,
Zach is so scared right now.
top 2 things that he said have been taken. So oopsie daisy. So I'm going a little bit different, to be totally honest. I don't know if this is too different or not, but I did do my research coming in. This is not something he suggested. I'm going a little off script. I really want to pick Phantom Menace, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like this close to picking Phantom Menace, but I'm not. Instead, I'm going to pick series because I just feel like the better movies are off the board now. So I'm going to pick something that actually looked really interesting to me as someone who is not the biggest Star Wars person. I will be picking Andor.
I just said to Ingrid, she's picking Andor.
I am. I think for me, why Star Wars doesn't connect as much is I'm just not super big in like the fighting actiony side of things. Personally, and Andor described is more gritty and political of the Empire, and to me that's the kind of thing I love. I'm not big into like super big into sci-fi as a whole, so something that kind of gears towards a different side of Star Wars definitely is something I prefer.
Yeah. Nice. When Julia said I did my research, that's when I knew what she was picking, because I also did research. And if you search rank the Star Wars shit on any website, there are websites that have Andor as number 1. And yeah, I think when I was driving home from trivia, I was talking to Ingrid about like picks, and I was like, I had mentioned that Andor was a potential pick for me, and I was like, you talk to people who have seen Andor, I have yet to talk to a single person who has watched Andor that has said they did not like it. Whereas I cannot say the same thing about anything else Star Wars.
Yeah.
Fred wanted me to the original Ewok series. I'm kidding.
The Ewok series? Oh, the Christmas special or whatever? Or Life Day
Ingrid
special?
would like to pick Young Jedi Adventures.
I've not seen Andor yet, so I will hold my judgment, but I've heard it's amazing. So, Zach, you've seen it, right?
No, I'm the same.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen, and I think here I am to do the Austin and poke a hole in something. No, I'm just kidding. I think the thing that Andor unfortunately has going against it is that it comes at a time when people are so unhappy with Star Wars that a lot of people aren't watching Star Wars related media. I do think when I say a lot of people, I mean like the world is watching watching the Star Wars media, but
Well, and this brought them back too.
Right, and it's not at the height of its popularity. So there's like Star Wars has like its sweet spot era, and Andor came in at a time where Star Wars was kind of at its lowest, I think, because people weren't happy with the films, people weren't happy with the way that certain series were going, and I think just on the whole, like Andor is beautiful and unbelievable, but from what I've heard in like the scenes that I've watched, it doesn't have any sort of excitement surrounding it, and I think that plays into a detriment to it. Which I mean, I do have to go and watch. I don't watch anything nowadays, which is so frustrating. But I mean, I think if anything, its biggest upside is that it brought people's love for the universe back, because it was, I think, Julia, the reason why you love it so much is it's not the same. It's not just lightsabers and battles and cutting hands off, and that's what makes it so wonderful, is that it's different and it strives to be different, but it strives to make you love what Star Wars is, which is a story about like galactic politics with espionage and good versus evil, but is the good side really good and is the evil side really like it does what Star Wars is supposed to do, and what a lot of people think it hasn't done in a really long time.
Sure. Cool.
I mean, I can't really speak on it, but what I can say is that from what everyone has been saying, this sounds like something I should watch, because a big part of the reason I'm not big into Star Wars is because I, too, am not one that cares for, like, a ton of action. I like action, but I need the action to be relevant to the plot.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Star Wars, a lot of the action is kind of action for action's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot of battles and a lot of lightsabers and, turning on your lightsaber and all of that. And now I need to stop because the dirty side of my brain is kicking in. So
I will say, I'll help you stop, Noah. Ingrid is over here screaming that the reason she prefers Star Wars to Marvel is everything you're saying. And she thinks Star Wars isn't action heavy, or like it is, but it's not nearly as action heavy as like Marvel films are. And I just want speaking it's for the
very important.
I mean, I can see that point of view. For me with Marvel, though, a lot of it has to do with, I think the action is very relevant to the plot. And I mean, at the end of the day, with Marvel, a lot of it is superheroes saving the world. Yeah. And in order to have that big impact in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you need to have that grand scale level of action, I think.
Cool. Alrighty. So moving on, I was going to pick my live action just because I'm worried Zach might snipe it, but I also know Zach's a big Marvel guy, and nothing Marvel has been taken. So I'm going to take a risk and hope he doesn't pick my live action, and I'm going to pick my Marvel now. And I'm going to go off of Noah's point of action excelling the character depth. And there's no action sequence, I think, that like better encompasses the characterization of like just this bitterness and like culture and weight and stakes as the Killmonger T'Challa waterfall fight to become the Black Panther. In my pick, which is going to be Black Panther, this isn't even my number one Marvel Cinematic Universe film, but I think it's one of the most important, if not the most important. It's the one that got nominated for the Oscar. It's also one that's like super culturally relevant, but I think when we talk about like action for being fun and action-y versus action to actually like advance the plot and like give these characters more stakes, I think Black Panther does it best in those early fights when they're having like those duels and he strips away his power and he has to fight to the death or whatever. The last act, the big like kind of all the rhinos and all the CGI stuff isn't as great, but the beginning, those like first two acts with all the action is so good. All the character development. Killmonger's a great villain. I think it's such a great world building to where it doesn't feel like a Marvel film at times. It's so grounded in this Wakandan culture. And yeah, I love it. I think it's great, and I'm very happy to have it on my board. And it's the first one to go, and I feel like this is like fitting for like the first one picked for Marvel, even if it's not my personal favorite. It's probably one of the more meaningful ones. So
This
It's a
is
phenomenal
my
pick.
this is my personal favorite Marvel
Yay.
movie.
It's good.
I think it's so wonderful. Like you said, the cultural significance is great, and just like the world building, it's incredible. Just seeing Wakanda, it's amazing. It's so beautiful. Like I vividly remember. This is one of the few Marvel movies I just vividly remember, like, just sitting in theaters watching and loving. It's just great. There's it's stunning.
I build a whole unit in my class around it. My intro to theater
Really?
class, there's a whole unit built around. I call it the Full World Creation Project, and the way that I introduce it is I show Black Panther, and I show the I use it as the example to showcase how the setting and the characters and the story and the color palette and the music and the team as a whole, like how they have to work together to create, in order to create what I think is widely considered probably the best overall Marvel product by a lot of people. It was number 2. You almost got me, Dylan. But
I wasn't trying to take it away from you. I just was.
No, I know.
You know.
I think it's probably. I mean, what's beautiful also about Black Panther is that it has aged so well because of the, oh God, what's the right word? Because of the tragedy that
it's
you
carried
know, like
more importance because
losing Chadwick Boseman is a really difficult thing for the community at large. So it only helped to deepen how important that film is. And it just, like, I mean, there's very few Marvel movies that on a rewatch you can like find ways to enjoy it more than you did the first time. And I think I think I've watched Black Panther now probably about 20 times because of how often I show it, and it's every time it's better. Every time. I've never hated it, and I've never liked it less than I did the time before.
Nice.
I mean,
you guys keep talking. I'm gonna turn my camera off for a sec to blow my nose, but I'm listening.
Black Panther is just so good. Like, it's so well done. We're talking all about the world building. And for me, the way I kind of judge the world building in a Disney movie, whether it be Pixar, animated, Marvel, Star Wars, whatever, if I can look at the world and say, I want that to be a theme park land, that's how I know it was built so well. And out of all of the Marvel, quote unquote, lands that we see within the cinematic universe, Wakanda is the one land that I need Disney to build in a theme park. I don't care what theme park it is. Wakanda needs to be represented somewhere in the theme parks, not just because of how beautiful it is, but because of how impactful Black Panther is, not just within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but within our day and age, within my and Julia's generation especially. It's just, it's so culturally important, relevant, and impactful that it transcends the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in my opinion. And it obviously helps that T'Challa is an amazing hero. I think Shuri is a really great character as well. Killmonger, as Dylan mentioned, is a great villain. And I also think it sets up for the events for Wakanda Forever pretty well. So I think overall it's just a really well done, well executed film in general. But for the Marvel library, it's one of the best.
Yeah.
We are at like an hour and 10. I don't know how long these normally go, but we're only at the end of round 2 at an hour 10 minutes, and I have nothing more to say about Black Panther that hasn't already been said.
Austin,
So I'm good.
We have myself, you, and Zach all on one call. Do you expect this to be a short one?
I will
Are you
say,
saying that I talk too much?
as each round goes, it usually gets a little quicker because they get a little bit more deep cut, personal, but cool. All right, Zach, let's see what you go with here.
Okay.
It's been a
Well,
while.
I'm not. Hi, everyone. Have you missed me? No, I keep talking. So I am not going to pick my Star Wars because I get the pick of whatever I want. Obviously,
right. Yeah.
I mean, I got my Pixar, which was huge.
I mean, you can pick your Star Wars.
I have faith that I am going to have a good result with any MCU movie.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my animated and my live action back to back.
Okay.
I've battled myself on my animated because I am trying to go with what I think is my favorite versus what I think again is like I'm pandering to the people. And I think this is a good middle ground of pandering to the people and meaningful for me. And Dylan probably already knows what it is. I mean, Dylan, maybe you don't know what it is.
I assume I know what it is, but maybe I'm wrong. It's not my shirt.
Oh, surprise! Okay. It's not my shirt.
The one
everyone.
On your shirt just to see what your reaction would be, but I didn't want to do that.
I love The Hunchback of Notre Dame with my whole heart, but it is not going to be what I pick tonight. For my animated, I have to pick Disney's OG, The Little Mermaid.
Oh, yay!
That would have been.
Now I got it.
That's a good one.
Start the Renaissance. No.
Not on my whiteboard.
Yeah, I'm not on my whiteboard. I love the original The Little Mermaid. I honestly love both of them, if I'm truthful. I think they're both stunning, and I have a massive crush on Ariel, and that is just like a personal thing for me. I think weird. No, I think probably one of the most iconic female songs ever, Part of Your World, and the reprise itself. I mean, the song is so good that it gets a full-on reprise, and it's probably one of the most popular songs, and people were waiting to hear it. Whereas there are other live remakes that have had beautiful music in their OG animated series, and it didn't deliver, and people were, people are kind of like iffy on either. There is no doubt the love for the original Part of Your World is iconic. No, I got nothing else to say. I love it so much. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. I don't think there is, outside of The Lion King, I will say I don't think there is a perfect Disney animated film. But I think The Little Mermaid comes pretty damn close. And I love it. Probably my favorite Disney villain. Ursula is a boss ass bitch, and she gets what she wants. Probably one of the only animated films where the villain gets just as much love as the princess. Lion King is sort of like that weird in between, because Scar gets a lot of love as a villain, and Mufasa and some, but it's not like a princess animated film.
Right.
I think every other Disney animated princess film, the villain is not nearly as loved as the princess. It's either one or the other, but it's very equal, and that makes it an enjoyable viewing experience.
Yeah. Another great soundtrack too. Love the music so much. Yeah.
Started the Renaissance, had that rough stretch for a while, and really just after that, just a string of great movies. And I think it was a wonderful one to start that off.
For sure.
And say a bad thing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to piggyback on what Zach was saying about Ursula. I mean, Ursula is not only one of the most iconic Disney villains, period, but I think a big part of the reason why she's so loved, I think a lot of it has to do with the inspiration behind Ursula and her roots as well. Because for those that don't know, Ursula was inspired by a really well-known drag queen named Divine.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for someone that considers themselves to be part of the LGBTQ community. Surprise, I'm coming out right now. Not really. But as someone that...
I was like, whoa, no!
Zach,
amazing!
did you not know that about me?
No, I did. I didn't. You never push someone out of the closet. And you don't, when you don't know.
No, you are 100% right. I'm just like,
I'm just
you would have been shocked?
No. I just keep going.
You would have been shocked that this was the occasion of all occasions you were decided to come out.
This is when Noah decided.
Round 2, pick 5 of the Disney draft.
I mean, I'm comfortable saying it with all of y'all because, we've known each other for a good bit of time at this point.
Mm.
So it's not something where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and just do it out of the blue. But but I just feel like, given Ursula's roots and the inspiration behind her, I feel like for a lot of kids that are part of the community, Ursula is just a really great way to have someone in a movie that you can kind of connect to a little bit, in the sense that she's really over the top, and you could argue that she's kind of campy in some moments, but at the same time she's ambitious. She's a go-getter. She's gonna do what she wants to do. She's gonna get what she wants, and she's just a really good role model, I feel like, in that sense. Not necessarily in the sense of granting Ariel her wish for legs, but only giving her 3 days to find a prince, otherwise she loses her voice forever. I don't suggest anybody do that in real life. But the principle behind being that ambitious go-getter, while also being different at the same time, I feel like it's just a really great inspirational story for someone on paper that is supposed to be the bad guy that you root against.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought of it that way. Yeah, it's great.
Poor Unfortunate Souls is my favorite villain song in all of Disney, period.
It's good.
For me, that's about where my love for Little Mermaid is. I'm not... It's a great film, but when I'm ranking Disney films, for me personally, it's top half, but not top 20.
Gotcha.
Typical.
All right. So, Zach, you get another one now, and I'm a little worried because I took a gamble.
I have no idea where people are going with their live action, so I'm very...
I don't either. I'm nervous. This is the round where I think it's all going to fall apart. But Zach, go ahead.
Well, here we are, everyone. An hour and 17 minutes in. 18 minutes. I originally had a top pick for live action that was what I considered to be probably the best. And then my wife changed my opinion because I said, you want to see my list? And she said, can't believe that's number 2 and not number 1. So I'm going to trust her. I think that her stamp on this will be good. Let me take you to a faraway land where a young teenage girl did not know that she was, in fact, Princess of Genovia. And I'm going to pick The Princess Diaries.
Nice.
Oh, you want iconic, man. You want iconic. Again, it wasn't my original first choice. And then the more I sat and the more I thought about it, I was like, I can't let it go. You probably, Anne Hathaway's breakout role. Oh my God.
Julie Andrews.
You. I literally in my head couldn't pick the Julie. I was like, it's Julie, and then my
Julie Chen.
Dame Judi Dench. That's where my brain went. Julie Andrews is. There is something warm, comforting, emotional, unbelievably, again, generation defining. it does what so many Disney films after it have tried to do, which is emulate this feeling of I'm supposed to be ordinary, but in fact I'm great, and I'm not willing to accept that. So many other films have tried to do it, and I just don't think any other film does it better, truly and honestly. Probably, I mean, like, I go back to this at least once a year, if not more than once. And I think that, I mean, I felt pretty good with all of my live actions, but I don't think I could let this one go another round without taking it.
It's funny. I've only seen the second one. I've never seen the
Also good. I mean, like,
Which is just so
another
yeah, like, I've
another
just never
really,
seen
really
this one.
fantastic.
So I gotta check out this one, but I've never seen it.
I've never seen either of them, so I can't comment on.
I haven't seen either of them, and I can hear my Calculus 1 professor just screaming at me to watch it because I remember a conversation my Calculus professor was having with my class one day, and he was talking about how he loved The Princess Diaries. And I was sitting like, I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know anything about it.
I feel like that's like
So
almost
good.
like where my generational gap kind of lies because it came out like, was it 2001 or something?
Yeah, 2002, I think.
So I was only like 3 years old.
I wasn't even born yet if it came out in 2000.
If it came out in 2001, it
Feel
would
old, Zach?
have ended on what month?
Right.
Well, as the second oldest person on this podcast, I can say that, Zach, I have seen this movie.
Thank God.
No,
Thank God.
August 3rd, 2001. Were you?
I will join in.
I was born.
Yes, I will join in that I have seen this film.
Okay, great.
Me and Zach, the old guys here.
Thoughts on the
Do you think it was on the whiteboard, Zach?
I do think it was on the whiteboard because I think Ingrid made you put it on the whiteboard.
It was not on the whiteboard. It almost made the whiteboard.
Damn whiteboard.
Have seen the live action portion of the whiteboard?
It wasn't on the
almost
whiteboard.
made the whiteboard.
Wasn't on the whiteboard.
Um,
Reese, what are your
it is-
opinions of the whiteboard?
Zach, of all of your picks, Zach, this is my favorite pick you've made.
He just shut.
It is my favorite pick you've made. It was extremely close to making the whiteboard. It was almost in the top 5. It's the number 6 for live action for me. It's a fantastic story. It's a fantastic cast. Everything you said about Zach is 100% true and accurate, and it's a very worthy pick. It's a great pick.
Julia, you should watch it because your energy is very Mia Thermopolis. It's in like the bet. She's probably I hesitate to say Mia Thermopolis might be one of my favorite characters. Period. So good. Such great acting. I mean, there's a reason that Anne Hathaway I don't even know how old she was at that point, but there's a reason that like she does this and then continues to just never stop working.
Yeah.
And it's because of this film. It's because of that.
All right.
If this was originally your second, I'd freak at the end to see what your number 1 would have been.
Me too.
Oh, I'm so curious if it's
I'm
going to
wondering
get
if
picked.
it's the one I'm gonna pick right now because I was very worried when I picked Black Panther. I was like, am I gonna get my live action? And I'm worried that I might be taking it away from someone to come because I had a live action ready, and then in the chat beforehand, someone asked, I think it was either Julia or Austin, do DComs count? And I was like, oh no, are they gonna take my pick? Because my pick was a DCom, but I didn't want to say no because I wanted to pick my DCom. But I also didn't want to say yes because I was worried they would pick my DCom. But I'm getting it now, and I'm so excited to pick the greatest sequel ever made, my favorite film to watch in summer of 2007.
Yeah.
It is High School Musical 2.
Yes, it is.
My personal favorite DCom. I don't even know what's my number 1 live action. I haven't like ranked all of them because there's like so many different kinds. There's like the old classic ones. There's like the animated live action hybrids. There's Muppets films. There's DComs. Animal, yay. There's live action remakes. There's so many live action realms to pick from. Theme park rides based on theme parks. So theme park attractions. So I was like, you know what? I'll just stick with one lane. I'll go DComs. I'm very happy to get High School Musical 2 here. It's my favorite soundtrack of any DCOM. It is perfect. They let Zac Efron finally sing, and he has a show-stopping number. Their duet when they break up is fantastic. Their duet when they get back together is even better. His solo is great. Sharpay's stuff is great in it. The country club is a great setting. It's very summery fun. I watch it every summer. The stunt double with Vanessa Hudgens is hilarious when you rewatch it, of the stunt double jumping in the water who looks nothing like her. I think it's like a man. I don't know. It's so funny and so good. I love it so much. And they give Ryan and Corbin Blue a spotlight too. What's his name? Chad? Yeah, they give them a spotlight with the baseball song. Like, it has everything. Baseball's my favorite sport, so there you go.
Why do I feel like Noah's gonna say he's never seen High School Musical?
High School Musical actually gives me trauma.
I've never seen High School Musical.
Oh, okay, good. I don't feel guilty now because I was worried I was gonna pick, like, this was one of the DCOMs y'all were floating around. So I'm glad. Okay, yeah, High School Musical 2 is my pick. Noah, why does it give you trauma?
So my senior year of high school, junior and senior year of high school, I was actually in theater, and our school musical that year was High School Musical. But the thing was, it was an all-school musical, so anybody in our school could audition for it. And I was working tech. I was working on stage left. And when you have a 90-person cast and half of those people are freshmen and you are a senior, it is very difficult to have the patience necessary to wrangle them in and make sure they're on top of their cues and whatnot, especially when you're somebody who has anxiety and your theater directors give you some anxiety and you're trying to make sure you don't miss your cues,
right,
while you're also trying to make sure you're not having an anxiety attack. It was a lot for me doing that show. And those experiences are just ingrained into my brain. I never want to hear We're All in This Together again. I don't know how many times I had to hear that song because of the rehearsal process and just the fact that we, did the show for quite a few weekends. There's also some personal history within High School Musical that is kind of traumatizing for me that I don't want to go into because it has nothing to do with the actual show, just like some of the dynamics within
the cast.
Yeah, exactly. I think
they don't sing "We're All in This Together" in the sequel, so maybe we'll enjoy
better
it more.
songs. Better songs in the sequel.
I will say I do like High School Musical. I used to be a big hater of High School Musical, but now that I've grown, I appreciate it for what it is. Is it necessarily my favorite property or intellectual property? No, but I think it's great for what it is. I think it's very appealing to my and Julia's generation, and also Dylan.
And
like it.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hold
up.
The old men in the room.
Wait, is this where we kind of find
High School Musical came out when I was in elementary school.
High School Musical came out when I was in 6th grade, and it was one of those things that I thought I'd get bullied for liking, and it turned out that everyone liked it. And it was like the first time that like the collective high school or just like educational system of children was like, we all like this? Yeah, okay, cool. We like this. Great. Let's not bully anyone over it, because it took a lot.
Yeah, this was 2006, 7, 8. Yeah.
Is this on the whiteboard?
Yeah, Austin, is this on the whiteboard?
It's on the whiteboard.
So
you're
or is this franchise on the whiteboard?
You suck.
Franchise is on the whiteboard. I couldn't narrow it down, and this is the reason.
I finally cracked it.
I was talking to Ingrid about this on the way home from trivia before. Hold on.
I cracked the whiteboard.
I think each High School Musical film has its thing that makes it better than the other two, and its thing that makes it the worst of the three.
Okay.
For me, High School Musical 1 is the best in terms of the nostalgia, the legacy, it hits you. High School Musical 2, far and away best soundtrack. You can't argue it, in my opinion. I don't think there's a single song that misses on that soundtrack, except maybe All For One. I'm not the biggest All For One fan, but I love every other song.
Okay.
And then High School Musical 3 for me, I feel like is the best written one. It is the best story. It is the best
And it's got the best budget too, because of
because it's a theatrical release. Yeah, I think that is where for me 2 suffers. I think 2 is the worst written of the 3. I think it's the weakest story. I think it's the one that makes the least sense for the characters. I don't know. I don't love the whole. I don't know. I think Troy is gullible with his buddies, but I think High School Musical 1 sets it up enough to where Troy isn't really gullible when it comes to Sharpay, and I feel like there's like some character regression with Troy in the second one when it comes to the whole Sharpay stuff that just doesn't make sense for his character to me. And that's why I feel like it's not as strongly written as the other 2 stories are, personally.
That's fair.
But
it's on the whiteboard nonetheless.
Entirely. I think that High School Musical 2 has the best overall story because it best encapsulates how a high school relationship goes. It's the perfect blend of like, oh, we're going to be together forever. And then one hardship is like, I don't think this is going to work anymore. Like, I think I have to figure out a different way. And all that it takes is just like one little thing to be like, you know what? We are going to work out and then break up again. Like that's a high school relationship to a T. And it is the perfect representation of like, I think it's the best understanding of like, hey, I'm supposed to only have one thing that I'm good at. And people being like, but hang on, what if you were good at 2 things? I don't dance. Are you kidding me? It's the best. It's the best High School Musical, man.
I don't even School Musical, but I can probably sing like half of I Don't Dance.
So good.
Classic.
So good.
Love it. All right. Well, I'm glad it's a well-received pick here.
Wait,
it's a great
I do have a couple more things. Austin, you said you were in elementary school when High School Musical 1 came out?
Yep.
How old are you?
He's old.
I would have been in 4th or 5th grade. I don't remember which one.
Geriatric.
I am 27, Noah. I was born in 1996.
So you were 10 years old when the first one came out.
I want to see a birth certificate.
What'd you say, Noah?
I want to see a birth certificate, and now I'm moving on to Dylan. I just wish that you were my theater director, honestly, Dylan, because you seem like a really great theater teacher. And I just feel like having you as a director would be a lot of fun. I don't know if you can hear any of these words because you're too focused on yourself.
Oh, you said Dylan, but you meant Zach.
Did I say Dylan? Oh my god, I did mean
Zach.
Zach.
I would also be a really good theater teacher.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Noah. Sorry, I was jamming out to the goat.
I was totally eating up his compliment too. I was gonna say I'm not even a theater teacher, so that
no, you're not. I'm like,
I was so confused why he was saying it to you.
I said Dylan. I thought I was saying Zach.
No, I would put this on with a real high school and literally like take out the stage and replace it with an actual pool, just to get.
Noah, you wouldn't be the first to mix up Dylan and Zach, and you won't be the last.
I mean, to be fair, I've never actually played a game with you, Zach. I've played a game with Dylan before.
Yet, Noah, one day. Unless I'm retired. I might be retired. I don't know.
You're not retired. All right. We got to move this along. Julia.
Maybe one day if Austin likes both of us.
I'm not going to pick a Pixar right now because I know I get at least one more round because no one but Dylan is in his Pixar. I'll get another one before it gets back to Dylan. So I'm going to take a Marvel. And I think my Marvel and my animated, I knew that regardless of what I got, I would kind of be happy just because I feel like there's so many good ones to choose from that I think are iconic and I really enjoy. I feel like there's a really obvious one on the board, personally, when you think of just like the iconic Marvel movies. But I'm not going to pick that one because I dare to be different. And I'm going to go with, actually, I believe the first Marvel movie I saw in theater, could be wrong, but I really enjoy it. It's It's one of the only ones that I've rewatched and I've gone back to. And I think it's the best of it and its sequels personally. And I know that could be controversial, but with my third pick, I'm going with the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
A great movie, obviously fantastic soundtrack.
Not on the whiteboard.
Very much on the whiteboard, but probably this is my second pick.
It's iconic. It is. It sets up just these wonderful characters, and it's like I said, soundtrack can't be beat. I'm a big music girl, so having a good soundtrack, even in a Marvel movie, is something that I really enjoy. I grew up on the oldies, so always meant a lot to me. But like I said, just one of the few Marvel movies that I have gone back and revisited, and one that no matter how many times I see, I always still enjoy.
Yeah, I'll say Guardians just as a whole for me is one that every like the original plus every single sequel is just it's spot on for where their story goes, where it's going. Something that I don't think can be said for every hero who has had multiple movies. I think Captain America does that very well as well. Not to say too many movies, but I think that series of movies also is a very good consistent series. But I think it's on the whiteboard. Probably if my number one pick gets taken, it's where I was gonna go if I needed to. So now I need to hope and pray that when I get to my picks, I still have some options here. It's a good pick, Julia. It's great.
Yeah.
I can't even poke a hole in it.
Especially for like Disney 100, like a lot of the superheroes were popular from their comics, but like this was like one where like Disney was like, we're introducing you to like these characters because they weren't popular comic book characters, and now they're like staples. So I think that's also a testament to like just the way they marketed it and released it and made them so popular is so good too.
And this is coming from the person who says, I don't like Star Wars because I'm not a big space sci-fi person.
Right.
For me to like love it so much, I know that it's definitely something special and does something different than the usual sci-fi space movies that I've never been a fan of. So
sweet.
I think me kind of going off of what Julia was saying, for me, I think the reason why I love Guardians so much but don't really care a whole lot about Star Wars, I feel like Star Wars takes itself very seriously. Whereas with Guardians, they don't take themselves as seriously. They're not afraid to get really kitschy and goofy with it. And for me, it just makes it that much more relatable because, like, if I was a big hero in some giant battle, whether it be in the Star Wars universe or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are going to be times where I'm just going to be ridiculous and goofy. And Guardians is like the perfect representation of that, where they're all very serious about the mission and about the battles and everything, but they're not afraid to show their looser side, and they're not afraid to loosen up and have fun.
As someone who absolutely doesn't take herself very seriously, I both very much can relate to it.
Nice.
Perfect series. Guardians is a perfect series. I have no qualms in saying it. I think it is a like creme de la creme. Marvel casts really well. This whole film is perfectly cast. Everything, every moment, every single person. The music is. I mean, there's a reason they gave James Gunn the whole entire DCU. There's a reason, and I think this is where it begins. They see, oh, this is a person who doesn't just care about the story. He cares about the way it's told. And I think that is like Guardians to a T is it's not just the story, it's the way it's told.
Right. Cool. Alrighty, cool. So Noah, you're up next. What are you going to take?
So the way I'm looking at this, I feel comfortable that whenever I decide to pick my animated movie, I'm going to like the selection that I have available to me. And then same thing with Marvel. I feel like with both of those categories, I can pick a movie within either one of them and be happy with it. Whereas the live action category, I want to grab one here. That way I'm happy with the selection I make, because the live action category, I think, is the hardest to choose from for me, because a lot of the movies that I'm thinking of, like, I wasn't the biggest DCOM person growing up, and nowadays the live action category is just littered with all of the remakes of the classic Disney movies, and they just don't hit anywhere near as hard. And so I want to be able to pick one in this category that I personally love. But I'm going to take a risk here. I'm not sure if all of you are going to accept my pick.
Okay.
Because I'm going with Avatar: The Way of Water. And that's one where I'm like, I love this movie so much. When I saw it in theaters and came out, I was like, that is one of the best films I've ever seen. I think with Avatar, the way they do the world building is so beautiful. I would argue the best world building in any quote unquote franchise, period. But I'm aware that it's technically 20th Century Fox.
Well, yeah.
So I'm like,
here's why I'm not gonna veto it, Noah, because first off, I love that movie too. I think it's fantastic, just gorgeous movie. But also, like, Disney did buy Fox, so now it's like 20th Century Studios now. They don't use the Fox name.
Whatever.
But I think because there is a Pandora in Animal Kingdom, like, Disney clearly wants to make Avatar part of the brand. So for Disney100 Draft, if we're talking about like just all the stuff Disney owns and has, and I would count it. I think it counts.
I'm not with because I don't care enough to veto.
Okay.
I wasn't sold until you just mentioned that, Dylan, that there is a Pandora, and I do think that is I think that is a valid statement.
Yeah.
Hot
Disney
take,
clearly pushed this one a lot. So
hot take, don't care about the Avatar films.
I agree.
Hot take.
I
Don't care.
I would have been a vote to veto, despite all of it, but yeah, I'm also just not a fan, and so
right. No, I'll fight this battle with you, brother.
but I do respect it. I do think you know what? It's just something for me, and maybe it's just because of the timing. It doesn't resonate with me the way that I want it to, especially when I think it also comes at a point where there is another Avatar franchise that I think does world building just as well. And I think that is a little bit more easily accessible. But I think that there's merit in the fact that, I mean, like, Avatar is a commercial success, and there is a reason that it is a commercial success, and it's because for a lot of people, it is the introduction to understanding how worlds are built and how you start to care and why you care about things. And why you care about characters that don't really exist. And I think that's its biggest merit.
I love how people were like, "Oh, the second one's gonna bomb." It's been so long since the first one, and the second one made just as much money. And I'm like, yeah, it's because like the people who aren't on like social media and stuff, like a lot of older generations too, they're just like, "Wow, big spectacle on screen," because it is so gorgeous to watch like, in the theater too. Like that's why you go see it in the theater, and that's why I saw it I think 3 times in the theater. Like I just think it's. I love it. I dig it. I love it. I think it's fun. I love James Cameron. I mean, Titanic's one of my top 5 movies of all time. So, like, I love that director. So, yeah, no, I think it's a great pick.
I will say, had there been the votes to veto, I would have used the exact defense that Dylan brought up earlier about how Avatar is represented in the theme parks as an intellectual property. And it's very evident that Disney is pushing it. And for me, Avatar is a really weird one because when the first one came out, I was like 8. I didn't care about it. And I didn't really start to care about it until they built Pandora, the world of Avatar, at Disney's Animal Kingdom, which, fun fact, a week from recording this, I will be there because I'm going to Disney World this weekend.
Yes.
So I'm very happy I got to go back. But because of my experiences visiting Pandora at Animal Kingdom, it made me care so much more about that world, because the way they immerse yourself in Pandora in that park is astounding. I mean, Dylan, I'm just going to throw this out there. One day, maybe you do a theme park draft or a Disney park draft.
I'd be down.
And
Same
like,
panel, same time.
yeah, listen, if we were to do that with the same panel, I would be totally down for it. Just food for thought.
A
But
recurring panel. Jeepers creepers.
But I mean, for me, because of my experiences in Pandora, it made me care a lot more. And so when Way of Water came out, I watched the first one on Disney Plus, and I was amazed by it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the second one, and I was even more amazed by it. And I feel like it's one of the most picturesque films out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Anyone else thoughts on Avatar? No. It's okay. Hey, Noah and I will fight this battle alone.
Specifically Way of Water, I just want to point that out.
Yes, the sequel, and that's also more Disney too, because the first one like wasn't Disney, and then Disney acquired it, whereas this one's like no, Disney marketed it, so it makes sense. Austin, what's gonna be your next pick?
I have no idea.
Okay.
What's on the whiteboard?
Yeah,
So
can you
many
consult the
things.
whiteboard, please?
There's so many things still on the whiteboard. What I know I'm not picking, what I know I'm waiting until it just comes back to me at the very end is the live action. None of my live actions on my whiteboard have been touched. I mean, you kind of touched High School Musical 2-ish, but I kind of had I was okay with any of the series if I ended up wanting to go that way. But Princess Diaries, Avatar, neither of those were on my whiteboard for live action, so that's definitely where I'm going last. So far, the two Marvel movies that have been picked were both on the whiteboard, so that's definitely the most precarious place. So that's why I definitely need to take that out here. And one of the 5 for animated were also taken. So
Take it out left and right, guys.
yeah, Julia has been.
Get him out of here.
They call
Get him out of here.
Julia's taken away some of my whiteboard stuff.
Sniper.
Yeah, and it's in both of them. I'm torn between two movies, and it's kind of that it's the whole balance of, especially for the animated, it's do I pick my pick or do I pick the Disney pick? Like I think because I think a lot about why Julia picked Lion King. And how a lot of people, when we talked about the Lion King, we talked about when you think of Disney, it's one of the first things that comes to mind is Lion King. And one of my two picks, I think, is very much, if you're not thinking Lion King, you're thinking this one. Mm-hmm. But then there's another movie that I'm debating between that I think is just the better film, and I like it more.
Go with your heart. Awesome.
So I'll leave that big Disney thing open. I will go with what my heart is saying to pick here. I'm gonna pick this movie. I know I poo-pooed on Lion King for not necessarily being the most original. I know in terms of its story, I do think this is a pretty original story. Not the most original music, because it does pull from just music that already existed. I will be taking Lilo and Stitch. Will be my pick here.
Cool.
Left field.
I was not.
I love Lilo and Stitch. I think it is a phenomenal movie. I think it has the comedy. I think it has the emotional pulling on the heartstrings moment. Like not many. I will say not many. A lot of Pixar movies can make me cry. Not a ton of just straight up Disney animated pictures make me cry. But Lilo and Stitch gets pretty darn close when Stitch is boarding the spaceship at the end and just wants to say bye to his family.
Oh.
And
So
it both pulls on the heartstrings, but also just makes you laugh when the main woman in the galactic, whatever, I can't remember her name right now, but she's just like, what? amongst all of the super emotional. I think all of the characters are super fun, exciting, diverse. Yeah, I just think it's a great movie. Great soundtrack. Can't deny Elvis his dues here. Yeah, lovely Lone Stitch. I'm happy to take it here.
This is on the whiteboard, Austin. On my
It's
whiteboard.
on the whiteboard.
It doesn't exist, but
Not on the whiteboard.
It's on Dylan's
Not
mental
on the-
whiteboard.
Not on the whiteboard.
To say it,
wow.
don't like Lilo and Stitch that much. I'll be that. I'm waiting for the Austin and Fred podcast because you guys have the exact same taste. Which
I can tell. I knew that when I picked. I knew that when with BB Disney when he said Wally was his favorite. I knew me and Fred would have similar taste.
Again, this is not one I have extreme nostalgia with, and a lot of my favorite movies, especially Disney, are because of nostalgia.
Yeah.
I'm not like a critically. I don't like the critically acclaimed ones the most part. The ones that really speak to me. And I didn't see Lilo and Stitch for the first time until a couple months ago. So it's not one that I grew up with watching a lot. My only experience with it was the disgusting, terrifying, like Stitch's Great Escape
Oh,
God.
in Tomorrowland.
that
Oh,
was
God.
an abomination of an
And I will say for me too, with Lilo and Stitch, with me and Ingrid doing our rewatch where we're ranking them, another thing that's really kind of earned Lilo and Stitch that pick for me is that it's one that I went in with lower expectations on where I thought it would rank for me.
Me too.
And then we watched it and I was like, damn, I enjoyed that a lot more than I've been enjoying some of these movies we've been watching.
It's better than I remembered liking it as well when I rewatched it. Yeah.
I respect the pick. I do respect the pick.
I went through a massive Stitch phase.
You
in
did.
college.
You see,
I was like
You're bluing out, man.
very like love Stitch. Everything I owned was Stitch related. He was like the mascot for me. I think it's because I really wanted like a dog. That is, and that sounds so. But like if I correlate to it, I was so desperate for like something to take care of, like a companion little thing. Hi, I'm talking about you now. I was so like desperate for that I think that's where Stitch as a movie is so perfect and like excels, because if you are the kid who never got a dog because your parents told you no, Stitch scratches the itch of like, okay, but look how fun it is. Like look how important like companionship is, and that is a really cool thing that I think like is it on the whiteboard? No. Regrettably so, maybe. But like it was a really important movie to me for a while, and I think it's important to a lot of people.
I wish we had done this before the movie had come out, so we could have put your quote of "Stitch scratches the itch" on the marketing billboards.
Stitch scratches the itch. There's always time. There's always
Episode
time for
title.
a re-release.
Well, they are remaking it live action. The guy who did Marcel the Shell is doing it, so
It's gonna be a little weird.
very creepy. But I'm looking
Also,
forward.
please
to
take as much time, all of you, to talk about Lilo and Stitch as you want, because I'm still very much debating.
Bye.
We've all talked about it. Noah, you haven't said anything yet.
Okay, first off, CGI Stitch is probably going to end up being nightmare fuel.
Oh yeah.
Julia, I agree with you about Stitch's Great Escape. That thing was an abomination.
Oh,
it was
terrifying.
Awful.
It wasn't terrifying. It was just
the hot
awful.
dog. The hot dog breath.
Yes.
Yeah, like ew, awful. But Lilo and Stitch, as far as a film, I love Stitch as a character. He really speaks to my rambunctious side. But other than that, it's not exactly the most memorable film for me. Granted, I haven't watched it in a long time. But, I mean, really, the only things I remember from it are the line, Ohana means family, and the song Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, which for me is one of the most underrated songs in Disney's music catalog.
Slaps.
But other than those two things, I don't remember a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Nice. All right, Austin. We stalled for long enough. You got to pick something else. You're picking your Marvel, right?
Yeah. Definitely picking my Marvel. And funny enough, I'm debating between what I had as number 1 and number 3.
My God.
Because I didn't realize number 3 was number 3 until I thought Julia was picking it. Because I thought Julia was describing my number 3. And when I thought Julia was picking it, I got really anxious. And I was like, dang, is that actually the one that I want more than what I think I want?
Go with your heart. Go with your heart.
Stop it. I went with my heart last time, and then everyone poo-pooed on it. Julia's like, your heart makes the wrong decisions.
Everyone hot dog burped on your pick.
Oh, yeah. God.
There, hot dog burp. Oh, excuse me. There's another one.
Austin,
all right. I'm gonna stick with my number 1, and when my number 3 eventually gets picked, because if it goes unpicked, there's something wrong with Noah and Zach, which is very possible.
There's a lot of things wrong with
There's a lot of things wrong with Noah and Zach. But this will just add to the list.
Oh man,
I gotta take the one that I'm shocked is still here in round 4. It's the culmination of several movies. Gotta take Avengers Endgame here. It's the culmination of everything Marvel did in phases 1, 2, and 3. I think my one gripe with it when I did see it was just how quickly the initial offing of Thanos goes within the first 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Like that, but that's my only gripe with the entire thing. There's so much emotionally there. I Love You 3000 is just one thing that when I'm thinking through these and I think about that, that just is gut wrenching there. All the characters, it's if I'm going with one that makes me feel between the 2 I was debating on, this one definitely makes me feel a lot more than the other one. Whereas the other one, I think, is for me just a fun time and a really good movie still. And we'll talk about it if it gets picked. And if it doesn't, I'll bring it up at the end.
Was this 1 or 3 on the whiteboard?
This was 1.
Okay.
Endgame was 1. And this is another one that I remember watching it in the theater and actively shedding tears when all of the portals open up for the big fight at the end. When every single one of when that first portal opens and then each subsequent one and you just see people pouring in, it's just especially if you are a Marvel fan, you are the comic book fan, and you are this is what you want to see. You want to see every single one of these characters coming together for this giant purpose. And it's so epic and badass. And I gotta take Endgame here.
Yeah, just such an event. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
This was what I was talking about. Is I think the obvious one, left on the board, and you can't hate the pick. It like you said, it defined years and years of storytelling in movies and really getting involved in these characters. The way Toy Story 3 defined the entire series and is a great little bow on it. Endgame is the same way. Just a good finish for the character that we've spent years loving.
Yeah.
Say it with me. Wasn't on the whiteboard.
Wow. I'm a little surprised, Zach. I sat next to you as you weeped.
Oh, I was a mess. No, I think it's an amazing film. I think it's a little too obvious. I think that for me, it's probably my favorite theatrical experience I've ever had. The reason it's not on the board for me is because I feel unfortunately, it hasn't aged well with people. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think what's amazing, like probably one of the highlights of the pandemic, if there was ever a highlight, was that my wife and I did a full Marvel watch, and it was her first time, and Dylan was there for the end of the watch when we watched Avengers Endgame. And it's just like watching people experience it for the first time is so unique and awesome. I think that it's hard because it I can't go back and rewatch it unless I'm in the mood for it.
Right.
Whereas a lot of other Marvel, I can go back and I can just put it. I think that's where Black Panther excels for me, is that you can put on Black Panther whenever you want, and it's just good. Endgame is one of those, like, you have to feel like you're in the mood, but it is unbelievable. It's like I am poo-pooing on it from a draft standpoint, but from a movie standpoint, like Dylan is correct. I openly wept next to him.
I was like, is there a breeze? And it's him.
It was unexpected. I'm not a movie crier. I'm like pretty stoic for the most part. I couldn't help it. And it wasn't until he falls and goes up against the thing and sits there and Peter comes and we did a Mr. Star, and like it just happened. I couldn't even stop it. I had no power. It's amazing.
Honestly,
It is. I will say, Zach, mentioning that it's like the obvious pick. This is the first obvious pick I've made in the draft.
It's
I feel
true.
like my draft needs one obvious pick.
You're normal. Congratulations.
I agree with Zach there. Like the difference between picking Endgame and then something like a Black Panther Galaxy in a draft like this is Endgame is good because of the fact that it is this. I can't pronounce this word. It's my speech impediment, but it's the culmination. You got it
on the second time.
Culmination.
Yeah.
Culmination.
Of
I love you so much.
Where it's like Black Panther and Guardians of the Galaxy, they're great standalone. Like there's something that I could throw on and do throw on and just enjoy, where it's with something like Endgame, I don't feel like I'm getting what I want to out of it unless I've recently watched some of the things before it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Julia on this. For me, I love Endgame, and I think it's one of the best Marvel films, honestly. But it's hard to view it as its own standalone entity because, at least for me, it ties directly into Infinity War. And I can't watch Endgame on its own without having watched Infinity War before. So it's like I have to do a double feature with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know why. It's just the way that my brain works. But it's just really hard to watch it standalone for me. And again, it's so emotional that you have to be in the mood for it because of how heavy it hits. Right. And then I'm just kind of repeating what everybody else has been saying, but it's not just a great cap for the Avengers, it's a great cap for the Infinity Saga. Mm-hmm. Like, part of the reason why Endgame feels so emotional for me isn't because of the fact that it's just a cap on the Avengers. It feels like the end of an era. Mm-hmm. It's the end of the Infinity Saga. It's the end of an era, and it feels like it.
Right. I almost feel like what Zach was saying, like people don't love it as much as they used to. I think is because we got so much more after. Whereas, like, I feel like if it had ended here, this would be like considered one of the greatest of all time, you know, or still be, you know, held on that regard. I think because so much has come out since, people have kind of, you know, the impact is lessened a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, but it's still great. Yeah. All right, cool. Noah, you're up again. What do you want? You still have your Disney animated open and your Marvel.
So I'm gonna go with my Marvel pick. The reason why is because with the animated pick, the field is still so wide open for me that it's going to help if a lot of options are off the table to narrow it down. Whereas with Marvel, for me, the pool is a lot more limited, so it's easier for me to pick. But with that being said, I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm going to take Captain America Civil War.
Nice.
Good pick.
I personally think that movie's really good. I think it's the best movie within the Captain America trilogy. And I love, for me personally, I love the setup for it because it's not just like Captain America, but it really feels like it's setting up for the rest of the Infinity Saga because you have the dynamics within all of the Avengers. You have the conflict between Captain America and Iron Man. And for me, I just really love the way that it builds. And not just for like within the movie, but for the entire Infinity Saga as a whole. And I also personally just really like seeing those dynamics. I think it really brings the universe to light for me personally. And then I also just love the idea of taking everybody that's fighting for the same goal, but then showcasing all of the inner conflict and turmoil within. For me, it's a really great glimpse as to what is going on within the Avengers and not just seeing like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that all made sense because I was kind of like, blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just so
Fine.
unique of a film because it's like you don't usually see the heroes fighting each other. You see the heroes fighting bad guys. So like that's just a cool twist in itself. So
My favorite Cap film. I think probably one of my top 10.
Austin's cracking me up. He's been shaking his
not
head.
Not on the way. It wasn't on my whiteboard either, Austin, but it doesn't mean that I don't love it.
I want to take this whiteboard and shove it where the sun don't shine.
No, I wasn't even talking about the whiteboard.
I want to take his whiteboard and smack him in his head with it.
I wasn't even talking about the whiteboard here. I'm talking strictly Cap films, and I want to reiterate that I did say earlier when Julia brought up Guardians, I said that I think Guardians and I think Cap are the two solid like series where every single one is a fantastic film. If I'm ranking the Cap films, I am ranking Civil War last of the three.
Wow.
I think Captain America Winter Soldier is the best Cap film.
Okay, that I can understand.
On the board.
What was that?
Is on the board.
Winter Soldier is on my board too.
I actually got to
Will
look
I
at my
pick it?
ranking because I might
I don't
agree
know.
actually.
If you do, it's not the one I was torn between though.
I can understand Winter Soldier being the
I know
best
which
Cap
one you're
film
between.
because I do think that film is really good as well.
I'm just
think
looking at my ranking. I do have this last too, but I love it. That's the thing.
I
So
think Captain America: The First Avenger is one of the worst Marvel films.
Oh, I love it.
Ooh.
I love it so much.
I did not like that one.
I love history so much that I'm
Yeah, that's
I have
I
such
like
a
it too.
soft spot for
I think you're alone there, Noah, because I also love the first. I show the first Cap film to my theater class is fun. I show the first. I do, but I really like. I will only show. I don't show all the Marvel films, but like I show specific ones to highlight like the importance of certain things.
Do you actually teach or do you just put on?
Do you just
Best
show
fans in
Marvel?
Marvel.
Haley Keener, when you watch this back, remember this moment. This was at the 2 minute and like 7:30
2
second
hours.
mark.
2 hours.
Because, sorry, 2 hours and
2
7
minutes.
minutes.
I don't even know if you've been introduced to 2 minutes yet, Zach.
But Haley Keener always makes a joke like, "Do I teach?" Because I feel like I just watch movies, which I think is the beauty of a theater class. But I use the Marvel films a lot and specific ones to highlight. I do actually talk. I don't show it, but like I talk about Captain America: Civil War a lot, Noah, because I talk about the importance of like character and relationship and like how you can't just have a film without having relationships. You can't have a story without having relationships because the relationships are so important. I think the relationships are so fleshed out in this film. Like, I think the fight between Cap, Bucky, and Tony is probably like one of my highlights of Marvel, just period. Because the fight is so emotionally driven. It's choreographed so well, but like you have no clue who you want to win, which is the best part, because 9 times out of 10 you're like, well, I want so and so to win, but I am like, all right, Ingrid, you're not in this draft.
Ingrid hates Civil War.
Oh,
It's not on the board.
Ingrid
It's
actively
the
hates Civil War because she hates the good guy fighting good guy thing.
Oh, I love
And
She wants them all to just get along.
I love it.
She hates miscommunication. That's her biggest, one of her biggest pet peeves in life.
Oh, we
So-
know.
Ingrid, my communication tonight is break the whiteboard. Thank you.
I'll tell you, Zach. I approve of your teaching methods, Zach.
My students, ironically enough, Dylan, so do my students.
Well, no, you know what? Because you don't just include Marvel, right? Like Cars 2 and Chicken Little are on the midterm, right?
Yeah, they're on the midterm. Specifically Cars 2.
Planes.
Chicken Little, yeah.
Planes.
Oh my god.
I mean,
And
The Hunchback of
Birdemic.
Notre Dame too.
Birdemic is on there too.
Birdemic
Yeah.
Shock
That's a
and Tell.
niche joke. I hope someone understands.
Oh, we get it.
Thank God.
I mean, for me, ultimately, like Zach really summed it up. The storytelling, the character development is so on point in Civil War, and it really helps to like build the story for it. And I'm someone that really loves storytelling. It's one of my favorite things about Survivor personally. I love seeing the story behind each season. And it's the same thing with movies. I love the storytelling behind it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Civil War has some amazing storytelling that works not just for the film, but to build up the MCU as a whole. And that's something that I just really appreciate about it.
Yeah, there you go.
I agree with all that.
All right. Any other thoughts or moving on? Cool. All right.
Look
Team
at Austin
Cap.
admitting.
We're almost there.
Team
Uh,
Cap. Anything else is wrong.
Julia, what's your next pick gonna be?
Okay. I am going to go with a Pixar movie
Oh no.
because both Zach and Dylan have gotten their live action off the board. So I want to make sure I get a good Pixar pick in where Dylan can take it. This is probably the one I went back and forth with the most of any of them because I have a favorite Pixar movie like above all else, but like it clears. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the most popular pick.
Go with your heart.
No.
Shut up.
When is
Shut
that
up.
good? But they're like I said, I have a favorite, but then I also have a most nostalgic one that I can vividly remember weekends at my grandma's house. This was always on cable. I've probably seen it more than any other Pixar film, and it's also wonderful. How Austin was describing Wall-E and what he loves about it, and how so much can be said with so few words. My favorite scene, I think, in any Pixar movie ever, and this movie does the exact same thing. And so for my Pixar movie, I will be picking up. I think the
Yay.
life scene is just incredible. So few words, but it communicates so much heart and love. And it just tugs at your heartstrings. It develops so much emotion so quickly into the movie. And it's amazing just to see like this man's love for his wife throughout everything. It's a great movie. And I love dogs, so that also really helps.
Yeah. I'm shocked it took till round 4, pick 3 for Up to be taken here.
Yep.
I'm shocked that it's the 4th Pixar film taken here.
Was it on the whiteboard?
Back when I was talking about Wall-E, I mentioned how I have 2 favorite Pixar movies that alternate based on how I'm feeling. Up is the other one. It was number 2 on the whiteboard.
Killing the whiteboard.
Julia,
was
you
number
may
2
hate
on
when I
mine?
say-
Really,
Julia, you may hate when I say not on the whiteboard, but all of your picks are on the whiteboard. Julia has not missed a pick off the whiteboard here. Yeah, it's everything Julia said is 100% accurate with it. The storytelling's phenomenal. The characters, Carl Fredricksen is my favorite character in Pixar, Disney, whatever. Like Carl Fredricksen is my favorite character. I love him
Grandpa.
with every fiber of my being. Yeah, it's there's nothing bad I can say about it. What makes Wall-E typically why I say Wall-E is more my favorite than Up is that I do feel like from start to finish, I remember more of what happens in Wall-E than I do what happens in Up sometimes. Like there's a lot of that, like the stuff that happens on Charles Muntz's blimp, I'm a little foggy on, but outside of that, like it's a solid movie.
Yeah. It was actually my number 2 behind Toy Story 3. So like you guys took my top 2, Zach and Julia. So I'm very happy it's represented. So I'm glad you played it right because I would have taken it next. But I'm happy because I'll be able to get my number 3 Pixar film next. So
can't believe I'm gonna say it. It wasn't on my list, and it's
Zach.
not because again, Pixar
I don't
is
understand Zach's
It's deep.
list.
Pixar's
hold on.
deep.
Hold on. Well, first of all, Pixar is so deep, but like
Yeah.
I picked. I mean, there are a couple that I'll be shocked if they don't get picked either. Like Cars 2.
Zach,
Even Cars 1, Zach. You don't even need to go 2 at this point.
Is Cars 2 on the list, Julia?
Just name
Cars
pistachio ice cream.
my list is crazy.
But for me, like the big thing, the reason why Up doesn't come to mind immediately is because the ones that are, and I won't say them yet, Dylan, because you haven't picked, but like the ones that were on my list below Toy Story 3, I mean, only one of them, am I right? Yeah, only one of them is particularly like new age Pixar. Because I don't even think of Toy Story 3 as like new age Pixar. I think of Toy Story 3 as like the end of my generation Pixar. And so only one really like goes outside, and it's because I mean, like the way that you just talked about Up and like the weekends at your grandma's, like the thing that you saw more than anything else, like the ones that are on my list that I didn't pick are those. But like I think that Up is like the only reason it's not on there is because of my own sentimental like feelings for the ones I had. But like if it's not one of the most incredible pieces of art there's ever been, like throw me in jail and throw away the fucking key. Like it's a beautiful work of art. It's not a film. It's like an odyssey, man. It's so good. It wasn't on my list because of like when you're making your list, the things come to your head in different ways, and that just didn't immediately pop up over the sentimental ones. But I mean, it's a phenomenal pick.
Like I said, it's probably not in my, definitely not in my top 3, but it's the one that I like the most that feels so like.
Yeah.
For me, I'm with Zach on this one. It wasn't on my list either. I can feel Austin's rage seething through the camera right now. I bet he wants to fly down to Texas and beat my ass currently. But for me, with Up, there's 2 things. One, Zach was talking about how Toy Story 3 was kind of like the end of his generation for Pixar. And for me, my top 2 personal Pixar films that I had are from the new age of Pixar, because for me, that's kind of when I started to like really understand my emotions and understand like, oh, this is how I connect with the films, or this is how like I can see the connections with these films with the real world. And so the new age Pixar films that slap really hard are the ones that I have the most nostalgia for personally, such as Inside Out, which was my pick. But then also for me, I can't remember anything about Charles Munson. I didn't even remember that was the dude's name. I don't remember much about the antagonist in that part of the plot at all. And everything that I remember is stuff that was from the first half of the film, which is that opening scene with Carl and Ellie. And then, Russell coming into Carl's life, and you have Doug and Kevin. For me, that's what I love about Up. And the fact that I don't have any takeaways from the antagonist, for me, is something that the film suffers from.
No, I want to say I am not seething with rage because this is Julia's pick that you're poo-pooing on, not mine. And I couldn't say anything bad about it, so I'm glad someone is poo-pooing on Julia.
Okay.
Y'all it's only been positive for so.
Hey,
Um,
I boosted you during the Lion King pick, so now I'm gonna pop a few of those balloons and bring it
Feels
back
like
down to the ground.
feels like eons
Folks at
ago.
home.
Well, I would have picked Up if you hadn't, but I'm glad I get this pick because this is like my childhood nostalgia pick. Even though Up is also very nostalgic, Toy Story 3 is very nostalgic. I'm gonna go with the one that is, from my memory, the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. My first movie, according to my parents, was the Tigger movie, but I don't remember it very well because I was only a year old. But my first, sorry to tip picks if anyone was gonna pick the Tigger movie next. But the first movie I remember seeing was a big old fuzzy little kitty and a small little green one-eyed dude named Mike. It was Monsters Inc., which is like one of just the most nostalgic warm hugs of a movie for me. I love the comedy, the fact that it's got like that classic slapstick humor that Billy Crystal adds so much just naturally, but also like the warmth of the John Goodman role. He has a knack for playing kind of the warm, cuddly guy next to the kind of more cynical sidekick. He's done it in quite a few Disney movies. But I really do love the partnership, the duo. I love the hijinks of the doors, and they go in and out of all these doors, and they travel to different worlds. It did the multiverse so much better than any of the Marvel films ever could dream of. And I love Boo so much. She's so adorable. I want to name my child Boo. I won't, obviously, but maybe like a nickname someday. But yeah, Monsters Inc. is my third favorite Pixar behind Toy Story 3, which Zach picked, and Up, which Julia picked. So I'm very happy to get it here as my number 3 on my whiteboard. Yeah, I love Monsters Inc. so much.
It was on my list. I'm happy something on my list went because
Yay,
that was one of the ones that I was really beat up. Like, this is the worst part about the draft, is only getting to choose one, and Toy Story 3 I think was the right pick. But like Monsters, it's just like, it's so feel good. Everything about it. I could watch it like 4 times in a row and just have a ball every single time. I've never. I think it's one of like the couples costumes that my wife and I have done. We were Sully and Boo. Like, it's Dylan knows it's like our group of 4 friends. That is the 3 of us, or the 2 of us, my wife and our friend Lori. Like, that is the film we most compare ourselves to, because Lori is so Mike and I'm so Sully, and just like it's so relatable. It's so relatable in the weirdest way, but I like can't help but just absolutely adore it. I'm glad that it's on someone's board.
What does that make me?
Not on my whiteboard.
It was on.
On your whiteboard. What does that make you? I think you're hey, Mr. Sullivan.
Fuck you. I am. You're right.
It could let in a draft. It could let in a child.
This is another one of those picks that was, if this was a draft for 6 people, it makes the whiteboard. It's probably that next pick after the ones. And are we fair game now to like say?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, now it's off the board. I mean, I know. Yeah, I know. Zach, your big one is like Finding Nemo. I know, but
that was second on my list. Yeah.
The other, and that's one. This is kind of a Clone Wars moment for me with Zach saying that is Finding Nemo should be on my whiteboard, and it's not. The other 2 I had in my 5 if Wall-E, Up, and Toy Story 3 had gotten taken. Incredibles is one that I feel like is kind
also
of a
on
snub
my
here.
whiteboard.
And Coco, I think, is another snub here.
Coco.
Favorite Pixar movie.
Good night, Ingrid.
Goodbye.
Good night, Ingrid.
Good night, Ingrid.
I have to teach tomorrow, so.
Me too.
Yeah,
I know y'all do, but since I don't.
This last round will go quick, I promise.
My favorite movie, Pixar above all else, no questions asked, is Toy Story 2.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ratatouille.
No.
Ratatouille's great too.
Good, Julia. Damn.
Wait,
Ratatouille was also very close to making the whiteboard.
y'all start school early on the East Coast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Noah's like, the night's still young.
Yeah, no, I think talking about this pick in particular, Monsters Inc., I agree with everything you said. It's a fantastic world, fantastic characters. I think it's it's up there, and it's funny that I think it kind of makes sense that you're a Monsters Inc. fan when you're also a big Toy Story 3 fan, because I think it's another one of those plot twist villains.
So good.
Where there's the obvious villain of Randall the whole time, only for it to turn out to be Waternoose. I think is one of the best Pixar villain reveals.
Right.
Yeah, it's a solid pick. Something that didn't make my list, but I want to personally just shout it out because it is one of my personal favorite Pixar movies, but I know it's not typically a very hyped up Pixar film. I just want to give a shout out to A Bug's Life.
Oh, very good.
Bug's Life.
Yeah, it's underrated, man.
Oh,
It's
no
super
one-
underrated.
Soul. Shout out no one picking Soul. Soul overrated. Soul
Underrated or overrated?
overrated. Soul overrated. Terrible.
Interesting. I feel like it's not rated.
The only new age I had actually was Monsters University, which I
That's a
think
good-
is
Underrated.
such a good sequel. Oh, like as good of a sequel as the original, I think, in most ways. The story is where things kind of really dip because you don't have Boo to really counteract Mike and Sully, which I think is the like highlight of the first Monsters Inc. But that's another one for me. What year is that, Dylan? Do you know?
Monsters U?
Yeah.
2013.
Okay, I'm in college right at that point. Like
I'm about to go to college. Yeah,
I am very Pixar for me was very defined by the timing because so I feel like I am born at a moment where Pixar is about to hit its stride. Its best stuff happens as I'm growing up. They realize that like my generation is kind of like that like sweet spot for them, so they built a lot with us, which is also why like they really dove into Toy Story 4, which was not a necessary thing. That was their first, I think, like misjudgment.
Good movie, but yeah, they need to continue it.
Good movie, not necessary.
All right, let's keep it going because we do still have to get through a whole another round. But Zach,
Okay.
I will give you the back-to-back now. Here, you got to pick your Star Wars and your Marvel.
Wait, did I get to say anything? Because I don't think
go
I
ahead,
did.
Noah. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, no, I didn't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Monsters Inc. and Monsters University were actually both on my list, but
Nice.
for me, Monsters Inc. is it's just quintessential Pixar, I think, in the sense of you have the emotional attachment with Mike, Sully, and Boo. You have the comedy with Mike and Sully's dynamic. You have Roz as kind of like a secondary villain, but still very iconic in her own right. You have Randall, who's like one of the main villains. Like overall, I think Monsters Inc. just hits every single part of a movie that I want to be hit on the nail. So for me, like I love it. And I think Monsters University is a great sequel, whatever it's called. And also for my money, Monsters Inc. is the most underutilized IP in like Disney outside of movies. Like when I think of Disney rides that I want to be built, I want there to be a roller coaster theme to the swinging doors.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's great.
I'm very big in the theme park.
Yeah. No,
So.
I love it.
Okay.
Now you're up.
I believe it or not, friends, I'm still not sold on my Star Wars, which is crazy. I have three I can't choose between, so I'm gonna get my Marvel out of the way. You know, Austin, I think I'm the only one with a Marvel left. Austin, I think what you're referring to is Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Nope.
Really interesting. Good, because it wasn't the one that I was picking. But what I am picking, Julia had me in the way that she was describing her pick. And you know what? I almost would have picked that. A younger me would have picked that. But then Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out and changed my whole perspective on everything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe stands for. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm going to say it. I'm going to get some hate, but I don't really care. I think Guardians of the Galaxy. This is my pick.
Okay. Cool.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is perfect. I think it's an unbelievable film. I think it's probably my favorite. It cemented the Guardians trilogy for me as the best overall trilogy because I don't think a single Guardians film misses. I don't think there's a single thing about any of them that there's no weak spot. I even think, I mean, we don't have to, everyone has picked Marvel, so I'm going to gush for 2 seconds. I think actually Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was my favorite Guardians film, and for like a hot second while I was watching for the first time, my favorite Marvel film. I think it's got the best villain. I think that is like some of the best like villain moments, like the I hated putting that tumor. It killed me to have to put that tumor in her head. Is one of like the most incredible moments of like. But Guardians 3 is it proves why I think, aside from the Russo bros, why James Gunn is probably the best director in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because to make me care about every single character and care about them all differently in every single movie, I can't find a thing that I hate about it. I've tried to not like it. I've tried to find holes in it. I think Bradley Cooper's performance is like is jaw-dropping. It's like stupid. It's so good because
hot take, it's his best performance of the year. I said
100%.
He's going to win an Oscar for another one, but it's his best performance.
And I think the thing about it is just it gives me everything that I want. I've never left a film. That is the only. I said I'm not a crier. I'm not. That's the only other Marvel film I've like openly weeped at because I just like the sequence with Teefs, and oh my god, Teefs, Lila, and Floor is just like everything. I love it. I can't believe that people didn't like it because it just is. I know the animal cruelty stuff is really hard.
Yeah.
That's maybe its only like poke hole, but I think it's important. Yeah,
I think my one qualm when I first saw it was that it was a little almost tonally jarring because it was like so dark and then it would be so funny. But the second time I watched it, I found the balance much more easy to manage, and I actually think you need the comedy to offset the hard stuff. So like I didn't mind it. Yeah, even though it was a little jarring at times, like I think it needed to be. Yeah,
this would have been my other pick. It was one or three. I was going between, but again, I can't say anything bad about it. I cried. It's fantastic.
It's so good.
The fact that Bradley Cooper made us care about like a CGI raccoon so much to the point where I'm like sitting in the theater weeping. Wonderful, incredible.
I mean, I loved Rocket before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but seeing Guardians Volume 3 made me love Rocket even more, and it cemented my opinion that Rocket is not only my favorite hero in the Guardians. For me, Rocket's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely adore Rocket. He's funny, he's clever, he's witty. He's got like all of those range of emotions, and the fact that it's a raccoon that I'm saying all of this about is insane. And also there's just something else I need to point out. Zach, you've been saying that you're not a crier, but I feel like you've talked the most about crying at the movies on the podcast today. No shame in it. I think men feeling their emotions needs to be normalized.
I love a good cry.
I
love a good cry.
A lot. I feel like I've talked about crying a lot.
Yeah. I want to have a cry off between Julia and Zach. Just sit them down in front of a
It will be Julia because I can't force myself to do it. I
want a screaming match between me and Zach. I feel like that's where
you will lose.
I feel like Zach cried in a screaming.
I mean, I don't know.
I was gonna say Austin's been awfully quiet. What are your thoughts?
I haven't gotten to speak on Guardians 3 yet. It's a good pick.
On the whiteboard.
It wasn't on the whiteboard.
That's crazy, Austin.
It was on mine.
It's fantastic. No. It's fantastic. There's no reason it's not on the whiteboard. Like it's not. For me, I'm such a Marvel fan that like there are things that are not on the whiteboard, and the only reason is that just when I was brainstorming and picking through the other ones, they made the whiteboard, and I can only put 5 on the whiteboard. There's nothing wrong with Guardians 3.
No,
like I can't poke at it. Oh God, everyone's leaving here.
Yeah, I know. Right?
No. I'm here. I'm trying to fix my fucking chair.
Yeah, and I do think one big positive on Guardians 3 is I do think it has one of, if not the best fight sequence
Oh, yes.
the No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn is one of the best fight sequences in any Marvel film.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal. To give a little shout out, like I like, now that we are closing the book on some of these, to give a shout out to the Marvel movie that I was so torn between Endgame and it. Shout out to Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, very
Um,
good.
I think Thor
Wasn't on
Ragnarok is the
board,
best
but
Thor film.
Great
I
pick.
think it's not even close that it's the best Thor film.
I agree with that.
And I think it is just a phenomenal time to watch. Like, I think it's so fun, start to finish. It introduces so many great characters. And that's where that was where my big debate was between Endgame and Ragnarok. But Guardians
Personally,
3,
I think you made the right pick.
fantastic pick.
I think you made the right pick. But
I was between the ones that were honorable mentions. Winter Soldier was on there. It was number
Winter
4.
Soldier's on my whiteboard as well, yeah.
Black
Yes,
Panther was
indeed.
number 2. Infinity War was 3, and I didn't want to go super safe. I think people have a generally like more positive opinion of Infinity War than they do Endgame long term.
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree with that personally.
I disagree with both the sentiments.
I think that Endgame overall is a much more enjoyable film than Infinity War is for me. Mainly just because I Endgame does not feel as long as it is, and Infinity War to me sometimes does. And then the last one that this really, like, I couldn't have it not make the list, and it was really, if everyone picked all my other ones, Dylan already probably knows exactly what it is. It's WandaVision.
yeah,
Because I think WandaVision is on there solely for Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, and Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
The three of them are icons in that.
Great.
Enough about the MCU. I did make my decision. It was tough. I was between 3. I was thinking about going Last Jedi to be nice and controversial. I was thinking about going Revenge of the Sith because I think it is almost perfect, except for the fact that some things are just not well acted. So I went safe and I picked The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I feel like it needed to be on the draft board, even though, I agree, it's safe, but there's a reason it's safe.
And I mean, like, No, I Am Your Father, I Love You, I Know, the Hoth battle, Cloud City. I mean, just like everything that is Star Wars really comes from The Empire Strikes Back. A lot comes from A New Hope. A lot comes from Return of the Jedi. I know I shouted on Return of the Jedi earlier. I was really trying to push people away from the original trilogy because I wanted this. It was my first. I mean, I'll be real. I got pretty much my first overall pick on everything that we had tonight, and I think that that's because there's a lot going on just in the Disney category. But this for me was like, is this number one because it is truly number one, or because is it number one for the people, or is it number one for me? Is it number one for me? I actually think Revenge of the Sith takes number one for me. And I think, Dylan, we might have a similar opinion on that in terms of like Revenge of the Sith, like overall.
That was the first one I saw in theater, so that's always been like my nostalgic one. But Return of the Jedi is my number one. But yeah,
the fact I didn't pick Phantom Menace, despite how much I'm not a Jar Jar hater, I love me some Jar Jar, but I love like the pod racing and Qui-Gon. And young Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is so good. But I think just Empire Strikes Back is really like, that's it, man. Everything you get from Star Wars comes from that movie.
Perfect movie. Yeah.
No shade here, but Zach and Julia, you two just seem like the perfect people that would love Jar Jar.
I love me some Jar Jar. What the hell?
Unabashed. Weird Al's "The Saga of the is one of my top 10 most played songs of all time on Spotify. Phantom Menace, we love you.
Misa love Phantom Menace.
Misa.
Anyone other thoughts on Empire? I mean, it's Empire.
It's solid.
Yeah.
It's what I was debating between back when I picked Clone Wars. It was Clone Wars or Empire. It was the obvious one or the deep cut one. And I went with the deep cut one.
Yeah.
Empire's it's a perfect pick.
Pour one out for the sequel trilogy though, because there are some good ones there.
Yeah,
I like it.
think the Star Wars 5 is the only 5 on the whiteboard that almost all got picked. It's the one that 4 of the 5 I wrote down were picked off of this draft. The only one I didn't have written was Jedi, which would have been number 6.
Okay.
Mandalorian is on my list here.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But Empire Strikes Back, like everything Zach said is. I don't need to say more.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Empire? Cool. All right. Well, I'm wrapping up my Disney animated, and I say this for last because there's like 10 that I'd be happy to get. But my number 2 overall is still on the board, so I'm gonna go with my second favorite behind Lion King. This is my favorite. It's again the Renaissance nostalgia. Watched this so much as a kid, but also because like this was also tied to. I know it's not a movie. I'm picking the movie, but the memory I have is tied to the Broadway show, which is my first ever Broadway show. It's what made me realize I wanted to be in theater, and that is Beauty and the Beast. I love Beauty and the Beast. The music is so good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's just the characters are so lovely, the romance, but also the darkness. I like how it still kind of keeps the roots of the old French film, because the old French one from like the 20s or 30s is so good as well, like the original dark French movie. Really underrated, but this is obviously more Disneyfied, but they keep those roots. I love just everything about it. It's perfect. It feels like a Broadway show in a movie form because of the big production numbers and the Gaston and Be Our Guest and the opening number with Belle. Like they all just feel so well choreographed, even though it's animated. You know what I mean? But the song Beauty and the Beast though is one that I also whenever I was a kid, my Nana and Papa would play that song. They would waltz and I would stand on their feet and waltz in the middle of them. Like it's like a memory I have. So and they still want to do it, but I think I would break their feet now if I were to try it again. So but yeah, I love it. It's my second favorite behind Lion King, but like I'm very happy to have it on my board. So and in the 5th round, nonetheless, very happy.
This is my favorite Disney movie. This is in my top probably like 1 or 2 movies of all time.
Nice.
This is my Letterboxd 4.
Yes, the Letterboxd 4.
My Letterboxd 4. This is one of my favorite movies ever. Just incredible pick. So glad it got picked. This is
I am about to be so tired of Beauty and the Beast because it is my high school spring musical, and it has already caused me a headache.
Dylan,
I am the least liked teacher in the entire building right now by a good portion of the student body, as you are.
I hope we're watching this.
When you pay, some of them will, and they'll know. But I mean, something that I've loved getting to just re-experience for the first time, watching them audition and listening to them sing is just like, I was my second overall pick too, Dylan, and I was very close to picking it. It would have been what I picked if I didn't pick for my own kind of like selfish nostalgia. But I just like, I think the comedy is golden. The songs are amazing. It's so and its influence on the parks in general is so wonderful. And like eating at Be Our Guest is one of my favorite Disney memories. Is it a little overhyped? For sure, but everything good Disney is.
Yeah, food doesn't match the decor, but doesn't need to.
No, it doesn't.
Also,
for the interior.
The ride in the what is it?
Tokyo.
It's Tokyo. Oh my god. That's amazing. I haven't been, obviously, but I've seen videos. It's amazing.
I was like, when have you been?
No,
I've seen videos of it too.
Zach, I'll send you a video. It's
insane.
absolutely astonishing.
I need to see it.
The animatronics are unreal. Like they do the beast transformation in real time, and I really don't know how they do it.
It's so good.
All right, I'm gonna watch. Oh my god,
It is
Okay.
so good.
twist my arm.
Yeah.
I mean-
Any other? Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Tokyo is like the Disney park that I want to go to the most. It is my top bucket list theme park in the world. Like, I would literally drop everything if I found a plane ticket to go to Tokyo right now. That's how much I want to go. And I'm going to Disney World on Friday.
Yeah.
So, like that.
Yeah.
I'll take your Disney World ticket.
Right.
But
Viewers, if you want to fundraise to get Noah to Tokyo, to get all of us there, I would go.
seriously, I'm like, an org Tokyo Disney trip would be the best thing on the planet.
It'd be nuts. Great.
Zach is like, I cannot handle that craziness.
No, I'm currently watching the ride.
Okay. Okay. So Beauty and the Beast off the board. Any other thoughts on Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, it was the one that I was debating between when it was Lilo and Stitch or the other
So
one.
it was on the board. It was on the board.
Yeah, definitely on the
Wow,
board.
Yeah, let's go.
No, it's the one that when I was talking about, I pretty much said everything I wanted to say about Beauty and the Beast. When you think of Disney, I think what Julia was saying, like you may think of other movies that aren't The Lion King. For me, when I think of Disney, I probably do think of Beauty and the Beast as one of the first ones that comes to my head. I just looked at Letterboxd for my little rankings. It is my 6th overall Disney movie.
Do I not follow you, Austin?
I don't know. We can figure that out though.
I made them
I know
all
Ingrid
get
does because
box.
Ingrid. I
follow Ingrid. I don't know
Yeah.
if I follow
I
you.
made
Oh,
them
we'll
all.
settle it after. We'll settle it.
Yeah, just a couple of other shout outs to Disney movies because I like doing that. My top 2 Disney movies went unpicked. I didn't even pick them. My number 1.
I haven't made my
Wait, don't.
Oh, I lied. Noah hasn't yet. I will wait. Never mind.
Yeah,
but
we
yeah,
have
Beauty and the Beast
two
is
live
fantastic.
actions and 1 animated to go.
Yes, I forgot.
Oh my
but yeah,
God.
no.
Right, Zach?
Beauty and the Beast is fantastic.
What the hell?
I know. Okay, I'm gonna let Zach keep reacting. Julia, what's gonna be your
Yes.
live action pick?
Okay, so going into this, I was really deciding between 3 movies. I will say them because I don't care, Austin. I know you have your movie
You're good.
picked.
I
was
have
going
one pick, but you can say them anyway.
I was going between The Muppets with Amy Adams, Jason Segel.
So
I
good.
love
that
it.
was my number 2 on my list.
Amazing, Man or Muppet.
I
And-
somehow completely forgot about it, but that one should have been on my list.
Enchanted, because
Oh,
again, incredible.
Number 3 on
Or-
my list.
My personal favorite decom, I think, amazing. Halloween Town, Define a
Ooh.
Generation, so good. But then I decided to take a step back and think bigger. Not bigger, but I think something that I really love about Disney is how much it encompasses. Because like people think Disney and they'll think of your Lion Kings, your Beauty and the Beast, your Pixar's, even now like your Marvel and Star Wars. But they've done so many different projects throughout the years that I've loved so much. And I honestly didn't even realize this was a Disney movie at first. But it is one of my favorite movies ever. It's a little bit different than what you think of as a typical Disney movie. But I wrote my final paper on this in the one film class I have taken in college. I love a feel-good sports movie. So with my live action pick, I will be picking Remember the Titans. It is one of my favorite
Oh,
all
very
time.
good.
Denzel is incredible, obviously. Again, amazing soundtrack. I have seen this movie probably more than any movie ever.
Wow.
It's so good. It's not something like, again, you think of as a typical Disney movie, but I think especially for a Disney100 Draft where we're going like everything that they've done, something a little bit different like this, I definitely think deserves a little bit of a nod. And again, just an incredible movie. Who doesn't love a good feel-good sports movie?
Great pick. Great pick.
You can see the sweat dripping off of Austin's forehead as Julia named all of the possible things he was going to take.
Yeah, any thought? I haven't seen this in so long, so I can't really speak in detail, but it's great. I remember loving it. They do sports movies so well. They really do.
They do.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Remember the Titans? Cool.
No,
All right.
people are
All right.
terrible. It's incredible.
All right, Noah. What's gonna be your animated pick?
All right, so I went through my list. I had a bunch written down. I just crossed out ones I know I'm not going to pick. I am left with 5 movies that I have, and I don't know which one I'm going to pick still.
It's okay. I'm the same way with animated. With live action, I have 5, and I still don't know what I'm picking.
I mean, I've got one that I think...
You can say them now because you're the last one to pick.
I lied. I have 6.
Yeah, you
Which
forgot
one?
about Chicken Little, didn't you?
Put them on a wheel.
It's not animated.
I forgot about Chicken Little. I forgot about Valiant. I forgot about freaking
Planes too.
Home on
Planes.
the Range.
Who could forget?
Make my music.
A lot of those I missed.
Saludos, amigo.
I have a mix of classic Disney and quote unquote modern Disney. All of the films that I have listed have their merits. I think they're all amazing films. The one that is currently speaking to me is going to be the one that I pick. And I would say probably my favorite Disney movie currently. I'm going with Moana.
Nice.
Ooh.
Moana.
He's going with Wish.
I have not seen that yet.
Don't.
Strange World.
Don't
Austin
listen to
likes
Zach. Wish is fantastic.
I don't believe you.
Austin, I gave your fiance some incredible advice about Wish.
I was in Gabby's confessional for National Treasure, and Austin literally said to Gabby, because Gabby was going to see it one day, Austin literally said something along the lines of, "It's one of my top 5 Disney movies ever."
No, it was in top 10. Top 10.
Wow.
That's cool.
Anyway, Noah, what do you love about Moana?
For me, it's the soundtrack is so good. I mean, You're Welcome is a bop. How Far I'll Go is a bop. Shiny hits hard. I think Tomatoa is an underrated villain. I love the story of it with Moana and Maui having to go on the adventure to replace the heart of Te Fiti. I love how there's that twist with Te Kā being like this really menacing bad guy, and then it's revealed that Te Kā was Te Fiti. Just Te Kā was like the heartless and soulless version, basically.
Well, spoilers, but
It's been out for like 8 years at this point. I don't care.
So much so they're already remaking it. Like it's coming
Yeah,
out. It's crazy.
it doesn't need a remake. I don't think a lot of the films need a remake. I think of modern Disney, Moana is the best film with, aside from another one, I was torn partially because it kind of connects
what was
all
it?
of us, which is
Encanto.
Encanto.
I thought that's what you were going to pick. I was like, he's going to pick Encanto, that little bitch.
It was on my list.
Austin was gonna pick.
Yeah, I love Encanto. Though. I would have been happy.
Very good movie, and I think a little underrated. It was very popular when it came out. Hot take: I've never seen.
What?
I've never
Really?
seen Moana either.
Wow.
Oh, thank
okay.
God! I'm not so weird. Julie and I are so similar. It's not like I just have never had. I've started watching Moana, and then for whatever reason have just not been able to finish it.
Yes.
Not like because I didn't like it, but because
Noah's
something
face
happened.
Right now.
I fully
Moana.
assumed everyone here had seen Moana.
Oh, I mean, like it's been out for 8 years. I know what happens. I know how it goes.
Yeah.
It's arguably one of the most popular songs of the 21st century.
Oh yeah, every word of the song.
Right.
But I
Like,
but again, respect pick.
yeah, for me, when I think of Disney, Moana is one of the movies that I think of, partially because of recency, but it's also just such a good movie, and it's up there with the classics. I mean, it's up there with like Little Mermaid for me. It's up there with like Beauty and the Beast for me as well. I am gonna shout out the other films that I didn't pick. I think probably the most underrated Disney film of all time, actually 2 of the most underrated Disney films of all time, Princess and the Frog and Hercules. Both of those are
Hercules was on my list.
Both of those are on my list. They're my top 5.
They're both phenomenal movies. I also had Aladdin, classic.
That's on the list for me.
A
That's
gem
my
of the recent
second favorite Disney film of all time.
Oh! I just got followed by Austin. Thank you.
a gem of the recent generation. It was on my list, and it was again one of the things that Rachel looked at and went way too low. Zootopia.
Zootopia not getting picked is a huge snub.
That's a good one.
It's one of the best animated Disney films I think of all time. Such an unassuming gem. Yes.
Such good world building in that one.
So my Disney rankings are not complete yet because Ingrid and I still have, I think, like 9 films to officially rewatch before. Like, I won't put it into my ranking until we have watched it since I've been doing the ranking.
But Dinosaur's number one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Dinosaur actually was a lot higher than I anticipated. I expected Dinosaur to be 62 out of 62, and it was not. So
It's not bad.
It's not
just,
bad.
No one talks about it.
Also, I
Home on
just
the Range.
re-double checked. What?
Home on the Range.
Oh.
God.
Currently, number one, so just to put into context where we are at in our rewatch, our next film is Frozen. So anything Frozen and beyond, except for Wish, because when we saw that in theaters, I put it on the list. Anything in that stretch is not yet in our rankings. My current number one that I also was very highly debating picking in this is Tangled.
Tangled was
Tangled
the
is
last
so good.
one on my list. That was the last one I was going to shout
Tangled
out.
is my current number one. I do think there is a world where Zootopia is battling in that top 3 range when I rewatch it. I do know that because I know it's one of my favorites. But yeah, Tangled and Aladdin were the two that I almost threw out there before Noah got to make his pick because I didn't realize that was the category Noah still needed to pick from. But Tangled and Aladdin are my top 2 Disney films currently.
Hit 3 hours of Disney podcasting.
One of my favorite. This is my last, and I have to shout it out because no one else ever will. I love Oliver and Company. It's one of my favorite movies. I love it with my whole heart. Not a single person in this world cares about Oliver and Company. If only one person cares about it, it's me. If no one does, I'm dead.
I will also do one last shout out to a personal favorite. Shout out Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, it was on my list.
That was on my list too.
It's my number 3 after Beauty and the Beast and Lion King.
It's in my top 10. It's on my. It's number 10 in my top 10 on Letterboxd.
That's the one. Fred was like, "Yeah, that was fine," and then put it at number one. Number one on his.
He threw off my groove. So good.
All right.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
All right, Austin. You get the Mr. Relevant pick, number 25. What's it gonna be?
Yeah. All right.
What's the whiteboard have for us today, Austin?
Nutcracker in the 4 Realms.
Yeah, since I am the last one, I will list all 5 movies that I am currently debating between before I say my
Lemonade
pick.
Mouth.
That would be on Ingrid's list in a heartbeat. Ingrid loves Lemonade Mouth. I am not a fan. I do have the Little Mermaid live action on here. I do think it is for me it is the best live action remake of the ones they've done.
I agree.
I do have Enchanted on here.
Because it's a classic. Okay.
Yeah. I have Smart House, the DCOM Smart House.
Austin, what
that is my favorite DCOM is Smart House.
Really?
That's why it is on here.
If anyone does a luck podcast, let me know.
I have Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
That was
I also had that on there. It was number 3.
Gotta put.
And I have Lindsay Lohan's The Parent Trap.
That was my number 1. It was number 1, and I didn't go for it, and I will regret it forever. I think if you pick it.
Yeah, it's, and I do feel more or less like I'm mostly between those last 3. Like I don't think I'm going Enchanted or Little Mermaid. There's merit to the Pirates pick just because, and that one is like it's what we've talked about with some of the other films, like with Julia talking about Guardians 1. Like it's a setup to this epic like franchise that Disney has.
Camp Rock.
I did originally. So when I was like thinking about this, like the live action list was the one that just kept growing and growing and growing for me as I kept realizing what more and more and more went into it. And so like when I was first thinking live action, like DCOMs were all that were popping in my head, and I was like, yeah, I'll be happy if I get to pick any of the High School Musicals or Camp Rock or like that's all I was thinking until I started like doing more research. And
go with your heart.
Well, Austin is going to pick Descendants 3 right here, right now.
He's going to pick Allie.
Give me Parent Trap. Give me
Parent
Parent Trap.
Trap. There you go.
It really. I think Smart House might just be a little bit too much of a deep cut.
Why are you laughing, Noah?
I'm sorry, just Zach's face.
Yeah, I think
Zach looks like he
though,
wants to put Austin in a headlock right now.
I
didn't even
think
hear it.
Curse of the Black Pearl sets up this like major epic franchise. I don't think the whole franchise hits. And I think Curse of the Black Pearl is like the one that hits the most. And it's a fantastic movie. Smart House, like I said, just too much deep cut. I think Parent Trap is one that when people hear it, I said it to you guys and everyone was like, "Oh, Parent Trap!" Like it's one that you see and you're like, "That's a good time." Like there's so much about it. Like Lindsay Lohan, like it might be Lindsay Lohan's #1 best role she's ever done.
You're right.
And at such a young age.
Katie Heron. Katie Heron is
But there's only one Katie Heron.
Katie Heron, yeah.
She's two
Okay.
people in this one.
Katie Heron, and then, but she played 2
Right, that was
characters here.
I'm with you,
Like,
Austin.
this might be one of Lindsay Lohan's greatest acting feats, next to like Freaky Friday.
Friday honorable.
Also honorable mention there, Freaky Friday. No, Parent Trap's just fun. It's one, honestly, like we've talked a lot about. Can I just throw this movie on and either watch it at any time, have it on in the background? Like Parent Trap's an easy watch for me. I love the torturing of evil potential stepmom.
so good. Meredith Blake.
Yeah, Meredith Blake. Love the torturing of Meredith Blake. Love Chessie. Chessie might be one of my all-time, like, I've never thought to like rank Disney live action characters before, but like right now, gun to my head, like Chessie's probably for sure making that top 5. She's just such a phenomenal character, and brings such like a fun light-heartedness to the movie. Yeah, I think overall Parent Trap's just a super solid film, and it didn't help that it was going to make Zach really mad for me to pick it.
Did you pick
Awesome.
it? My headphones went dead.
Oh yes, I
Yes,
picked
yes,
it.
he picked
Parent
it.
Trap is my pick.
Zach, you literally had this was the last pick. You could have picked it.
Yeah, I know. I feel good about the Princess Diaries, though.
It's a good one.
The Parent Trap is my favorite live action Disney movie. I think it is perfect. I remember, I think I have a deep seated love for peanut butter. And I think it comes from this movie because the Oreos and peanut butter scene is iconic. Like, and like, it's one of the best. Rachel found this like cool peanut butter like company. They specialize in these like almost like dessert peanut butter treats things. And one of them is cookies and cream. And it tastes like the first time I remember doing the Oreos and peanut butter from the Parent Trap. And it just like, I had that wave of nostalgia of like, oh, I want to watch this movie now.
Cool.
I would like to shout.
I'm waiting for Noah just to say, I don't like the Parent Trap.
Oh no, it's even worse. I've never seen the Parent Trap.
Oh,
Okay.
No.
That's not worse.
I would prefer you say you haven't seen it versus you saw it and didn't like it.
No, I haven't seen it either, so I gotta.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I
good.
gotta watch it.
Mm-hmm.
When Zach was talking about peanut butter, my first thought was Ryan Cunliffe.
That name is not allowed here. That name is not allowed here.
I'm gonna have to send you something about Zach.
I
think I know exactly what you're talking about.
You might, but it's.
I'm kidding. I love me some Ryan Cundy. He just makes me angry.
I want to know what Julia has to say about the Parent Trap.
No, it's nothing about the Parent Trap. I just like to shout out to something I would have taken, but I was really scared I was going to get vetoed. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. Technically, I love it. It's fantastic.
Indiana Jones. I got Avatar because it's an IP representative.
Yeah, I didn't even think of Indiana Jones, but that's a great idea. Yeah,
Indiana Jones would definitely qualify.
I will say Parent Trap got added to my list literally when Dylan sent the link. I was scrolling on the D23 like website where they list like every
That's
single
what I
Disney movie.
also did.
And I was scrolling, and as I'm scrolling, I just caught the quickest little glimpse of the words Parent Trap, and I was like, oh my God, why is it not on the whiteboard? I don't know what was here where Parent
What'd you
Trap
kick
was.
off?
I don't remember. But I literally went like this and erased whatever it was.
It was a
and
good
wrote the
call,
words
Austin,
Parent
because
Trap.
it was. I couldn't believe that. I regret it.
Well-
No, The Princess Diaries is a good pick.
Well, with that, 3 hours in, and we have reached the end of our draft. I will do a quick recap just for you listeners. The poll is going to be open at the time of airing. Now, 3 hours later, the poll will be open for you all to vote. We cannot vote for our own. We have to vote for one of the other four. You all watching can vote for whoever you want. Zach's board, Toy Story 3, The Little Mermaid, Princess Diaries, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and The Empire Strikes Back. Dylan's board, Return of the Jedi, Black Panther, High School Musical 2, Monsters, Inc., Beauty and the Beast. Julia's board, Lion King, Andor, Guardians of the Galaxy, Up, and Remember the Titans. Noah's board, A New Hope, Inside Out, Avatar The Way of Water, Captain America Civil War, and Moana. And Austin's is WALL-E, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Lilo and Stitch, Avengers Endgame, and The Parent Trap. Very, very
Good
strong
boards.
board.
Good boards.
There was one... our MCU trivia competitor Brian, who's like obsessed with Disney, wasn't able to be on this draft, but he did request to send in a 30-second video of him sharing his picks because he is currently at the happiest place on earth. So I told him he could air his picks. So our Pizza Time Nussbaum Pizza Time is going to share his picks real quick. I'm just going to play the 30-second clip just because he asked to share it, and he's a big Disney fanatic. So here's Brian's picks.
Hey, Pizza Time here from Walter's World. See, so my picks for the Disney100 Draft are as follows. Disney Animation. Now, I gotta go with my favorite Disney animated movie, which is Aladdin. For Disney live action, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Mary Poppins. For Star Wars, I gotta go with movie Return of the Jedi. For MCU, I gotta go with Avengers Endgame. Now for Pixar, Toy Story 2, actually my favorite of the series. So happy holidays from Pizza Time. Signing off.
It was a good MCU pick.
Yes. Thank you, Pizza Time. Yeah, so
MCU
Austin,
picks.
Avengers Endgame represented by you, Return of the Jedi represented by me. Aladdin was undrafted, but we all brought it up. And then Julia, Toy Story 2, there you go. And Mary Poppins. So thank you, Brian, for sharing, and enjoy the rest of your vacation at Disney. And Noah, you're going to Disney, so enjoy your vacation.
I will say this. In the middle of the draft, we were talking about live action movies, and Mary Poppins suddenly popped into my head, and I wrote that one down. I was
She
like,
Poppins in your head. Yeah.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
that's a good one.
Yeah, great stuff. So I'm
Guardians.
gonna just go around the horn. Any last words? Any last plugs? If you want to plug your letterboxes or anything you want to promote.
Yes.
Zach, we're gonna start with you.
I went viral on TikTok on my wife's account for a Hunger Games opinion TikTok that I had. It's still one of the best ones I've ever done. Ray _cha _cha. But in the meanwhile, you can find me on pretty much any social media at zlove, either with 3 E's or 1 E. You can also, it would be super helpful if you followed my new theater company. It's called Petty Love Productions, PLP. You can find us at Petty Love Productions on every single social media.
Woo, woo.
That's
Julia?
petty with ease.
Yes, Petty. Julia, anything to plug?
Please follow me at Letterboxd at Rowe with an E at the end, not like your boat. 42. So that's Rowe.
Not like your boat.
42.
I love you so much.
Please follow me on Letterboxd. It's my favorite thing in the entire world. Please, everyone, get Letterboxd. It's my
Yes.
mission in life. Get everyone on the app. But yeah, that's me. That's all I care about. Letterboxd. Thank you.
I feel like that's what we first bonded over, Julia, in Survivor and Content was Letterboxd. So appreciate having you on. Austin, where can they find you?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? Lights, camera, action.
Yeah,
or-
game.
Survivor Lights Camera Action on Facebook. Sorry, I got distracted for a moment because things.
Call me out. Austin told me I voted for the wrong people on a poll for a trivia league that we're in. He texted me.
because they're going to get plenty of votes. So
You're right. I didn't even realize that I had voted for them.
Go to epicproductions.org and vote for the disappointments in the latest poll. so that me, Nick, and Ingrid can participate in trivia because we got absolutely boned for no reason. And yeah, Survivor Lights Camera Action org on Facebook. We are currently casting for season 5, which is a Once Upon a Time theme, little hand painted thing up there. But yeah, that's where they can find me.
Cool. Thank you, Austin. Noah, where can they find you? Anything to plug?
Y'all can find me over at Survivor Rewired on Facebook. It's a brand new org that is launching in February. We're starting out with a short little mini February 2nd through February 4th. And then February 16th, we will be starting our first long game themed to none other than Lady Gaga, Mother Monster.
Love that. Well, it was a pleasure having you all on. So much fun reuniting some org friends to talk about Disney, talk about some other interests. And we had some great discussions, some controversies, but otherwise pretty friendly match. So I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to win. Go to the Facebook page, Dyl Pickle Movie Network, where you can find the poll for this draft. Otherwise, signing off. This was Zach, Dylan, Julia, Austin, and Noah. Have a happy new year, even though this is coming out after the new year. But thanks so much and happy drafting.